goodness, Dakota. Here we are.
Yet again.
We're
still live.
We're here. We're alive. Welcome to the 100th episode of Dakota Boys Talk Movies. We made it to 100.
That's right. Cue the rock and roll part 2, since it's okay to use that song now.
Gary Glitter has always been okay. Okay, not as a person, but that song has always been okay. Oh my goodness. Well, what? Okay, so here we are. Months. It's like, what do you do for your 100th episode? We've had 4 different ideas and finally settled on this one.
I think some of those ideas had like 10 parts.
Some of those ideas would have been hours and hours and hours. In fact, this one could have been hours and hours and hours, but we're going to hopefully not make it that long. Hopefully you'll stay with us. What Dakota and I are going to do for this special 100th episode of Dakota Boys Talk Movies is we have each compiled our list of our 100 top movies, and we're going to more or less kind of lightning round through them. And then after we kind of lightning round through them, we'll go back and talk over a few of the ones that you're probably like, wait, what did he just say? Because obviously a lot on here, you're like, oh yeah, that one makes sense. But we have a few that we probably feel like are maybe a little left field in some of your eyes. But hopefully when we give our explanation as to why it's on the list, you'll hopefully at least understand our reasoning, or we'll talk about why that made our list, why we consider that a significant movie in our lives. And that's really what these are, just movies that are significant in our lives. There's maybe a little bit of an order to them.
Yeah, we should probably put a disclaimer out there. There's no, oh my gosh, why can't I remember that movie where the guy's like, Rosebud?
Citizen Kane?
Yes, there's no Citizen Kane on this list.
Well, I'll take that off my list now. I'm just kidding. It's not on my list. I do like that movie, though. But we really tried to put it more of the movies that really mean a lot to us and really shaped us, not the ones that are like, well, there's an art classic. And maybe there's a few of those on here, and that's fine. So, yeah, here we go. So, how this going to work is I'm going to say one, Dakota's going to say one. We're just going to kind of bounce. We're going to bounce it. And maybe something we encourage you to do is, don't do this if you're, like, driving, but maybe jot down a few we say as ones you never have seen or one you haven't seen in a long time. And we encourage you to check them out because obviously the reason we're saying these movies is because we're hoping you do check them out if you don't know them. So, all right, here we go. So, starting at 100, here we go.
100.
Unforgiven.
Oh, it's a good choice.
What do you got?
100, I have Groundhog Day.
Ah, okay, making the cut right there, right at the bottom. 99, The Treasure of Sierra Madre.
Really? Holy cow.
That's one of my classics on the list.
Okay. Number 99 for Dakota, Naked Gun from the Files of the Police Squad.
Also a good TV show.
Yeah.
All right, 98, Saw.
Ooh, the first one?
The first one.
Oh, okay.
The first one and only one, in my opinion. I just pretend it's the only one.
You could get away with that nowadays.
You can.
Number 98. The nightmare fuel that is Requiem for a Dream.
Oh, good Lord. I'm guessing you're going to be talking about that one later.
You never know.
All right. 97, First Reformed.
Interesting. Number 97 for me, The 10 Commandments.
Ah.
Let my people go. That was a horrible Charleston Heston impersonation.
I don't know. That's kind of how he sounded. Let my people go. Number 96 for me, Amadeus.
Oh, nice. Number 96 for me, also a classic from the 80s, Back to the Future.
Oh, there we go. Number 95, A Quiet Place.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
More of a modern one that
just
snuck its way into my list just because it's one that sticks with me.
Yeah, good choice. Number 95 for me, Carrie, the 76 version, not the most recent one.
All right. 94, The King's Speech.
Ooh, more of a classic one, I guess. Modern classic.
Yeah, I guess you call it that. Yeah.
Number 94 for me is a classic. At least I think so. The Manchurian Candidate. Also the original one, not the remake.
Okay.
Starring Denzel.
The remake stars Denzel. He was probably a baby when the original. 93 for me, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I would have thought, I don't know, one of the earlier.
Ghost, again, I had to go with the one that just sticks with me.
Okay. Number 93 for Dakota is Chasing Amy.
Okay.
Yes, hold the fanfare, people.
Number 92, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which was the middle movie of those new Apes movies. For those of you who aren't quite sure where that fits.
Number 92, Dirty Harry.
Ooh, 70s classic crime thriller. 91, Patriot Games. Patriot Games with Harrison Ford.
Yeah, my number 91 for me, also about a patriot, Apocalypse Now.
Ah, well, it's about something. Number 90, Cloverfield. The original.
I think there's only one.
Well, the one that's just called Cloverfield,
okay.
I guess is what.
Number 90 for me, Watchmen. Yes, that movie.
I don't remember that. That's what it was called. Watchmen. Yes, that movie.
Well, it's almost like Zack Snyder's a four-letter dirty word at this point. I mean,
it's true. It's true.
Anything Zack Snyder related.
You know, I would think Sucker Punch would be the dirty word for Zack Snyder. But let's move on here. 89, Ben-Hur. And this, as we've been trying to point out, I'm talking the original Charlton Heston Ben-Hur, directed by William Wyler.
Great movie.
It is.
Speaking of great movies, number 89, Return of the Jedi.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi. 88 for me, still in the Sword and Sandal movie, Spartacus. Again, Spartacus, this is the original Kirk Douglas, Stanley Kubrick directed, not those weird Stars TV series ones or whatever Spartacus there are now.
Not the USA made one.
Not the USA made one, or probably the one Sci-Fi made that I'm sure goes to parallel universes or something. This is just the original Kirk Douglas. R.I.P.
Number 89. Oh my gosh, that's
88.
88. Reservoir Dogs.
Ah, okay.
Complete opposite of Return of the Jedi, I guess.
The complete opposite. First Quentin Tarantino, right?
Yes.
First directed, anyway. 87, The Magnificent Seven. Once again, we have to say the original. I forgot that has a remake. This would be the original Magnificent Seven with Steve McQueen and Yul Brynner, among, obviously, 5 other people.
Yeah. Number 87 for me is First Blood, also just known as Rambo, I guess. You know, it's crazy. You and me growing up, isn't that what we just called it?
Yeah, everybody
Rambo?
just called it Rambo, and then as an adult, I realized it was called First Blood, and then a movie came out in 2007 that was called Rambo.
Yeah. We live in confusing times.
Yeah, they were called First Blood and First Blood Part 2, and then all of a sudden it was Rambo 3. So I don't even know if Stallone knew what he was doing. But yes, First Blood, great movie. 86, The Thing.
The Thing.
Now, I am picking the remake one. This is the John Carpenter made one starring Kurt Russell from the 80s is the one I'm talking about here. So yeah, The Thing.
All right. Number 86 for me, Thelma and Louise.
Oh, there you go. Directed by Ridley Scott.
You know, thanks to my sister, I watched this movie probably way more than I should have when I was younger.
I would say so. It's not really a kid's movie.
Yeah, this was a hard R movie, but my sister was like, yeah, you can watch it with me if you want.
85, North by Northwest.
Ah, classic.
Hitchcock thriller.
Number 85, Philadelphia. Starring the great Tom Hanks.
Yes. Let's see. 84, The Nutty Professor. This is the original with Jerry Lewis I'm referring to here.
I thought you were going for the Eddie Murphy one.
No, this is the classic Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis directed. It's actually pretty good, and I think the message of it is still apropos. But, yeah, Nutty Professor classic.
Number 84 for me is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, another classic.
And I said Willy Wonka, not Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That abomination.
It really is. 83, Warrior.
Oh,
This
okay.
is from 2011, I believe. It stars Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton, directed by Gavin O'Connor. A very good family drama.
Yeah, that's one way of putting that movie.
That involves
I guess.
MMA.
Yeah.
So,
Number 83 for me is Scarface.
Scarface, another family drama.
That's one way to put that movie, I guess.
You really just call every movie a family drama, I guess. 82, The Goonies.
Oh, man.
Fun fact for you here. I actually didn't see this movie till I was in college.
Man, you missed out.
Yeah, and when I did, I was like, wow, I'm glad I saw this. It's a really fun movie. I don't know if it necessarily would have changed my childhood if I would have saw it then, but I did enjoy it as an adult, and it does stick with you. I can see why so many people still love that movie. It's just a great adventure movie.
Well, if you had a chubby friend in your group of friends, at one point you would have asked them to do the truffle shuffle.
The truffle shuffle, yes.
It was a rite of passage growing up, I guess.
Or yelling, "Hey, you guys!" like Sloth.
Number 82 for me, also about a group of young people kind of getting up to some shenanigans. Boys in the Hood. Yes.
Again, we can say, well, that's one way to put that movie. Boys in the Hood. 81, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army.
Oh, okay.
Just a great comic book movie. It really is.
All right, I'm veering into the classic territory with my number 81, The Day the Earth Stood Still, 1951.
Okay, I thought you were going to say the one with Keanu Reeves.
No.
I don't even know Scott Derrickson would want you to pick that movie, and he directed it. Yeah, it's a classic there for sure. 80, The Fugitive. This is the 1993, I believe, movie with Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, based off of a 60s TV show.
I'm surprised they haven't tried to reboot this at some point.
Well, they did reboot the TV show.
Yeah.
With Tim Daly, I believe. But
I think people already kind of forgot about that, though.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I did until right now.
There's a sequel to this movie that most people probably have never heard of in their
Yes,
life.
Us Marshals. Or as a lot of people call it, U.S. Marshals. But it's a sequel. But Tommy Lee Jones is kind of okay, I think, even if you forget about U.S. Marshals.
Yeah. My number 80 is Superman 2.
Nice.
Yes.
The Donner cut or just the original?
The original. I feel like it does pain me. Like, if I had a time machine, one of the things I'd eventually do is just go back in time and, like, I don't know, give Richard Lester something else to do and let Richard Donner direct this.
Yeah, the wrong Richard directed that.
Yeah.
Or had the final say, I should say. My number 79, We Were Soldiers. I think that came out in 2001. A story about early years of Vietnam, or, well, really one particular battle in the early Vietnam conflict.
My number 79 is also kind of about a soldier. Terminator.
They're going to go, The Marine with John Cena. Terminator.
No.
Yes, The Terminator.
Is it The Terminator or just Terminator, right?
The Terminator.
Okay, The Terminator.
Yeah. All right, my number 78, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. This movie's amazing because it's spooky and hilarious all at once, and the fact that they got the original Universal monsters to be in this movie, minus Boris Karloff. I mean, Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney are in this movie as those characters, as Dracula and Wolfman, and it's amazing. and it's the funniest movie you'll ever watch. I'm just gonna say it. It's funny.
Yeah, it's unfortunate they couldn't have like thrown Batman in there. Like, I don't know, would have just kicked it up a notch, you know.
It could have been because he's Batman.
All right, number 78 for me, the comedy classic Dodgeball.
Oh, nice. Oh, I like that that's on your list, Dakota. That makes me happy. 77 for me, Won't You Be My Neighbor?
Oh, nice.
It's me venturing into documentary territory here, a documentary about Fred Rogers. It came out a few years ago, and I would say watch it. That's one of my big recommendations from my list so far. So let's go to what's your 77.
Number 77, a remake directed by Zack Snyder, Dawn of the Dead.
You know, that movie is inexplicably good for a violent horror movie. It shouldn't have been good.
Yeah.
And it is. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think he directed anything, but then
that was his
out.
first real direct movie, like his movie.
I think I had heard a rumor that he kind of like was directing music videos or something.
Yeah, it was music videos or commercials or something. Yeah,
Like it's weird just how these directors. I direct this music video. Now I'm directing a big budget movie. Wow.
Yeah, that's got to be a real switch. Number 76 for me is Black Hawk Down.
Ooh, nice.
A telling of just really a couple days in the Somalian conflict in what year was that? 1993, I believe.
Yeah.
Just about really an operation where we were supposed to go in, help out some people quick, and get out, and it kind of became a whole mess. So, but that is a really good telling of that incident, using a lot of soon-to-be movie stars in all the soldier roles, ironically. So, but yeah, Black Hawk Down.
All right, number 76 for me is Zodiac.
Oh, nice. I just rewatched that.
Yeah.
Still good.
David Fincher kind of gets a lot of praise for, Seven.
Yes.
But I actually think this is probably better than most of the movies he did.
100%.
Yeah.
The Zodiac is 100% his best movie, in my opinion. Because when I rewatched it, it just reminded me of that. Like, this is by far his best movie. Just character, everything. Yeah. Nice choice. 75. Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Wow.
This is probably one of the best Batman movies. It was theatrically released. If you've never seen this, it's pretty easy to find again. The WB has re-released it, even on Blu-ray now. It's remastered. Or if you have that DC universe, is that still a thing?
Yes,
I believe
for the moment.
I believe it's still on there too. But Batman Mask of the Phantasm, if you like Batman or the Batman the Animated Series, I'm assuming you've seen it. But if you're someone who's like, I like a lot of Batman stuff, and you never heard of this, watch it. It's a really good Batman story.
Yeah, funny enough, that's basically Mark Hamill's kind of in. Like when people are like, who's your favorite Joker? And people are like, Mark Hamill. They're like, oh, I mean movies. It's like, he was the Joker in a movie.
Yeah. Ooh, technicality.
Number 75 for me is The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Very nice.
74, Open Range. I feel like this is one of the best Westerns ever made that nobody really talks about. But it is a great Western.
Yeah, I think it's had the downside of coming out in a time when people just didn't want Westerns.
Oh yeah. It came out in 2003.
Yeah.
It was just that time period it came out in. And it was kind of when Kevin Costner was in kind of that nebulous of his career. And so I think a lot of things were going against it. But I would say watch it because it's still very watchable. It isn't like, it's already dated or something. But yeah, if you like Westerns, that's one to see because you maybe haven't even seen it because it kind of just disappeared.
All right, number 74 for me is RoboCop.
Another classic Western. RoboCop. Now, is that the original?
Yes. I feel, I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't have had to say that.
That's one where you shouldn't even have to say, like, do people even know there was a remake at this point? Number 73 for me, The Untouchables.
Oh, man.
Just realized I have 2 Kevin Costners in a row there. The Untouchables. Brian De Palma directed story of Elliot Ness trying to bring down Elliot Ness and his men trying to bring down Al Capone, really. So,
yeah, I think you know what's sad when it comes to there's the story's kind of been retold a couple times. There's a really nice TV show with Robert Stack playing Elliot Ness.
That was called The Untouchables.
Yeah.
Yep.
But my number 73 is Patton.
Great movie.
Yes, one. George C. Scott, man, he really, really brought it home with this one. Knocked it out of the park.
Most of you are probably familiar with him standing in front of a giant flag. I would say find that scene on YouTube and just watch that. That is a masterclass in how to give a monologue in a movie or on stage. Excellent. And he just blends a lot of real things Patton said into one speech.
Oh, yeah.
Number 72. Tremors.
Oh, God.
This is the original with Kevin Bacon, Stephen Gross, Reba McEntire. It's just great. I love this movie. I unabashedly love this movie. Just good stuff.
My number 72, just like the previous entry on my list, is also about a warrior. This one's Conan the Barbarian.
The original?
I completely forgot there was a remake.
Yeah, did Momoa do a remake?
Yeah, with Stephen Lang and Rose McGowan. That just came out and imploded, and we all forgot about it.
We did, till right now when I said it. 71 for me, The Bourne Identity with Matt Damon. This was really a switch in how people started making. Everybody tried to copy this movie once it came out, really.
Yeah.
Was kind of the downfall of this movie, but also what made this movie and its subsequent movies pretty good, other than when they tried to do that Jeremy Renner thing and stuff. It didn't quite work, but Bourne Identity is a really good modern action movie. So, what's your 71, Dakota?
Number 71 is... You ready for this?
I am.
The Godfather.
That was pretty good. At first I thought something was wrong, but...
Sorry, I've been waiting for 30 movies to do that joke.
Oh, man.
Funny thing is, recently we had the Irishman come out. There was actually...
We unfortunately did.
There was actually a meme floating around about Michael Corleone being a good son and helping his dad take his jacket off.
Taking his... Oh, gal. Yeah. Let's see. Number 70 for me, The Sound of Music. Just a great movie. Even if you aren't a huge fan of musicals, this is still just a really, really good movie, and is based on a real family in their events in Austria. So
what's funny? I heard from a person that knows music history. Supposedly, since this movie came out, like people think that song "Edelweiss."
Oh yeah,
is like a classic German song and
Austrian.
Man, I don't speak whatever, okay?
Because that movie, they kind of portrayed it as like, it was the song he used to kind of stir up the patriotism in his fellow Austrians.
Yeah, but apparently, someone also turned around and said like it was made basically for that whole, like this story in particular.
Oh.
And it wasn't an actual thing until this movie happened.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just throwing that out there.
I don't know either. I just know Christopher Plummer nailed it when he did it and had his little single tear come down.
Yeah. If it isn't true, it's interesting because it's like the song that plays at the beginning of Man in the High Castle.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. What's your 70, Dakota?
Number 70, Planet of the Apes. I don't know.
Since he said it like that, we all know it's the original, because I was definitely Heston.
Yeah.
Trying to get that angry Heston going.
Oh my God, there was a remake of that too, wasn't there? Oh, cow.
With Marky Mark.
Like apparently half my list is just remakes,
It's what
or
happens.
films that were remade.
Yeah, it's inevitable. Because my number 69 has technically been remade a few times. My number 69 is Sense and Sensibility. It hasn't been remade on film,
The one with Kate Winslet?
but it's been remade as like a BBC thing. But yes, this is Sense and Sensibility starring Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet and Alan Rickman and Hugh Grant with an award-winning screenplay by Emma Thompson.
Yeah, that's right.
This is one of my sweet movies that made the list. I really like this movie. So, Sense and Sensibility.
Oddly enough, my number 69 was remade, but on TV. Rosemary's Baby.
Ah, creepy. Or is it? All right, number 68. This is kind of get rebooted, I guess. The Matrix.
Ooh.
This is just the first one. It's the only one I really acknowledge as being made, just because I don't really like the sequels.
Does that include the Animatrix?
I haven't seen it.
You're better off.
I feel like I would just get impatient with it. But I do really enjoy The Matrix.
All right, number 68 for yours truly, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Ooh. Great movie.
Probably only one of the few movies out there where, with or without the main character, the story would still happen.
Yeah, it's true. Well, if you believe certain nerds, but
I just want to throw that out there.
We're starting to get into the parts of our list where we might start repeating one another because, spoiler alert, Raiders is somewhere on my list also. 67 for me, Lethal Weapon, the first one. Not 2 or 3 or 4. Although those are fine, but the first one is great. So,
all right. I don't think you will have this one on your list. Number 67 for me, Mad Max.
The original? Not like Fury Road or anything, just Mad Max?
I'm just leaving it at Mad Max. It was the beginning of the franchise. For those of you who haven't seen the earlier movies, this was the first one where Mel Gibson's character Max was just a cop in a violent world.
And he had a really thick Australian accent.
Even though he's American, apparently.
Yeah. 66 for me, King Kong. The original.
You could really open the floodgates with some of these. Like,
yeah.
Not say what year, just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Let people speculate.
Yeah, King Kong the original. It's just, it's a classic. If you've seen it, you know. It is. Great monster flick.
Number 66 for yours truly, also a great flick, Star Wars A New Hope.
Oh, nice. Let's see, my 65, Home Alone. Just the first one. Home Alone 3.
Somebody told me recently that there was 7 movies in total for this whole franchise.
Yeah, there's like, is there seriously 7? Because I just found out there was like a 5th one because my son talked about they showed it at school as one of their Christmas movie choices, and I'm just like, wait, which one? Like, there's a 5th one?
It's kind of like the Amityville Horrors. It's like, I don't know what they're on. They're like 25 or something.
Oh, jeez, that's true. They keep making those too. But yeah, I'm talking about just good old fashioned Home Alone for me.
Number 65, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Stopped Worrying and
How I Learned to Stop Worrying.
Yeah,
and Love the Bomb.
I always hated that second part. Why?
Because it's just as ridiculous as that movie, and I mean that in the most loving way possible.
I feel like, that's one of those, I don't know, Stanley Kubrick, some of his choices I never understood.
Nope. Even that movie, I don't quite understand all of it, but I love it. 64 for me. Maybe this is controversial because of how new it is, but it's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh.
It's just, again, I just saw this again not too long ago. I've been watching it while I've been running on the treadmill, and it's like, man, this movie's still good. It's just good every time I watch it. Everything about it's good. The voice acting, the animation.
I find it interesting to hear you say all this because I think you were kind of you. I'm pretty sure you thought this movie was going to bomb.
I was worried it would. Yes, because I saw the early teaser and was like, well, that looks really cool. But it also got me really worried because of how many Spider-Man movies there have been and the fact that there was already a really good MCU Spider-Man. And I'm just like, cartoons can go either way so quickly that I was worried that this one was going to just do that balloon thing.
Some people, I think the style of this kind of like worried people. Like, what are we getting into?
What helped me was when I found out Lord and Miller were involved because I had really enjoyed, Lego Movie and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, these guys seem to know what they're doing and they know how to tell a story in animation. So that did help. And obviously, the proof is in the pudding, as they say, because it's a great movie.
Number 64, E.T., the Extraterrestrial.
The original? Not like the ride? No, I was kidding. Oh, okay. Number 63 for me, Singing in the Rain.
Oh.
I did say singing. There is no G. It's singing apostrophe in the rain. This is a good gateway musical for those of you who aren't into musicals but would like to get into musicals. Insert the word drug instead of musicals. It could be the same thing. This is just an easy breezy, fun one, and you'll fall in love with Donald O'Connor, if anything, or how amazing Gene Kelly is at dancing. But it's a good one. Or just how cute Debbie Reynolds is.
I'm gonna just throw something out there completely unrelated. Did you ever see that commercial where they CGI Gene Kelly's face onto like a modern dancer?
No, but that sounds stupid.
It was really jarring. And his estate was okay with it because apparently he really liked modern dance.
Well, you want a deep dive? Okay, so Gene Kelly, he was actually more of an athletic dancer, whereas Fred Astaire was more the classical dancer.
Like a ballroom dancer type thing?
Yes.
Okay.
And Gene Kelly did more, like the Gene Kelly almost based more of how his dancing was off of like a hockey player and not even so much like classical ballroom, but he's like, how can I turn this athleticism into this dancing art? And so you have a lot. And so, yes, he probably would be more of a fan of modern dance because he liked that progressive evolution that you could do with dance. But yeah, that is stupid. Why did they put his face on somebody else?
But that's the thing for those of you out there that didn't know.
Yeah, and Gene Kelly, he was one of the directors on this too, and he's a crazy perfectionist. So he would have probably driven you insane if he works on this movie.
Maybe him and Kubrick probably had more in common than him and maybe Debbie Reynolds.
Who knows? Yeah.
All right, number 63 for me. This one, this is a strange entry for me because I don't like this filmmaker very much. But
it happens.
I really love this movie, The Grand Budapest Hotel.
You're not a big fan of fedora-wearing, unicycle riding. Actually, he wouldn't ride a unicycle. He'd probably ride one of those penny farthings or whatever those weird big wheel bikes are.
I feel like he'd have a monkey with him, too.
Yeah, and there'd be a monkey.
And it'd be named something like Jacques.
But which one of his did you say you liked? Grand Budapest?
Yeah, this movie's really solid. It's a very dark film, but I just enjoy the heck out of it. And I love how the fact that even though this is taking place in Western Europe, everybody has an American accent. Like Harvey Keitel is playing like this dude who's been in prison for years, and he's just like speaking the way Harvey Keitel speaks. And same with Edward Norton, like he's supposed to be this high-ranking German official, and he's just like talking like Edward Norton talks.
Yeah, that's kind of different.
Yeah, I love it. Adrian Brody's even pretty funny in this too.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. There's a few on my list where if I thought about who the director was, it's like I pretty much hate that director, but they sometimes have that one film that sneaks in. That's good. Let's see, number 62, Peter Pan.
Oh.
Should I just say Peter Pan and not say which one it is? Make you assume. It is the animated Disney classic. I just love that movie and thought everything Captain Hook or Smee did was hilarious.
Yeah, this is one I think if they announced like a live action remake for, I would for once be excited.
Yeah, and at the same time I'd be like, well, they did do a live action version in like, I don't know, 10 years ago and it was okay.
Funny enough, the movie you're referring to, Pan, was like...
I'm not even talking about Pan.
Oh.
I'm talking about, there was a movie called Peter Pan, and Jason Isaacs was Captain Hook.
Oh.
And I'm trying to think if anyone else in it was really a bigger movie star.
How did I forget this or not know this?
And I think the girl who played Wendy was like... She was in the Charlie and Chocolate Factory that you don't speak of. She was like, I think the bratty girl. But yeah, it just kind of came and went, and it was
Taylor Momsen?
I don't know, but it was a really well done movie. It just didn't quite stick.
Oh, okay.
So better than Pan, which I forgot happened.
62 for me. Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh, nice.
Oh man, you know what's sad? They don't make them like this anymore. But then again, they never made them like this.
No, well they did. Space Jam.
Yeah.
But yeah, Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
But
I go back and forth on if I like that movie personally.
Really?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one for me, but I also get why a lot of people love it. So
it's Christopher Lloyd's best work, man. I don't know. I don't know why you can't just get on the bandwagon.
Oh, number 61, Predator.
Really?
Yes.
Wait. The Predator?
Not the Predator. This is just Predator. This would be the 80s one starring two governors, future governors. It's just a great movie. It's a great. Well, you think it's just going to be a crazy, cool action flick with soldiers, and all of a sudden it turns into a crazy sci-fi movie. So, yeah, it's a good one. John McTiernan.
Right. Classic. My number 61 also takes place in a jungle, a concrete jungle. L.A. Confidential, baby.
Oh, L.A. Confidential.
Yes. This movie put so many people kind of on the map. Man, I'm trying to think. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, because it was starred like two Australian guys, didn't it? Like Guy Pearce and Russell Crowe.
Yeah. I was trying to remember the director's name, but
Curtis Hanson?
Right.
Didn't he direct it?
Yeah.
I think so.
Man, this is such... I really like noir movies, and talking about movies that really fell out of fashion, we kind of, I guess Knives Out just came out, but I don't know what the hell that was supposed to be.
Well, yeah, because you just had Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was technically like a goofy version of noir.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But, that style, it's kind of gone. It's a shame,
Somebody will bring it back at some point. It's just one of those things where now I think it's going to have to be like, instead of having a lot of them, it'll just be like at special moments, somebody will make a good one. Let's see, number 60 for me, Captain America, The Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay.
This is just one of the better MCU movies. It was kind of when Marvel Studios started switching and allowing the directors to have more creative sway and say in their movies and really help the movies. And from this point on, I think is when you start seeing better, more creative things happening in the MCU. So even though they still had to figure out a way to fit in all their big stuff, but
all right, number 60 for me, also a Disney movie, Toy Story.
Oh, nice.
The animated classic where all of Andy's friends look alike for some reason.
Yeah, when Pixar was still trying to figure out how to make humans not look terrifying. Oh, man.
I feel like that has alarming implications for this movie universe, though.
Yeah, it's true. Let's see, number 59, Enchanted.
Ooh.
Enchanted, another Disney movie. Came out in 2006, I believe, and stars Amy Adams, Patrick Dempsey, James Marsden, Susan Sarandon. And if you like all the Disney animated princess classics, this is just the homage to them all, really. And it's a fun movie in its own right with its own fun music.
Number 59 for me is probably pretty far away from a fairy tale as you can get. Cabin in the Woods.
It's a fairy tale in its own right.
It stars a guy that would eventually go on to be in Disney movies. I don't know. I'm sensing a running theme in some of our
true.
lists.
Let's see. 58 for me, The Wizard of Oz. Starting to get into our repeats here.
All right. I feel like this might be one. My number 58 might be on your list somewhere. Gladiator.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Gladiator. Another Russell Crowe. 57 for me, The Bridge on the River Kwai. The movie that Alec Guinness wish he were more remembered for than Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars.
You know,
honestly, once you watch this movie, you'll go, I can see why, because he's fantastic.
Yeah, I remember when they remastered this, and I think it came out on Blu-ray. It was back when remastering movies was like kind of a big deal. I walked into, I think, a Best Buy, and it was on like all the TVs, and I was like, "Whoa, this movie must be a big deal if they're like advertising it like this." And this is when I was a punk kid, and I didn't really know Bridge on the River Kwai. What's this about? But yeah, oddly enough, that's how I was introduced to it, and eventually, like, it showed up on TMC, and that's why I tuned in.
Yeah, it's great. And then it's actually based on a novel written by Pierre Boulet, who also wrote Planet of the Apes, the novel too. So, fun fact.
All right, number 57 for me, A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original.
You beat me to it. I was like, the original. Again, when it's so obvious like that, people, we feel like you probably know which one he's talking about.
Does anyone out there remember the fact there was a remake?
I think only when you allow it to cross your mind. But if you don't allow it to cross your mind, no. Why would you? 56 for me, Shaun of the Dead.
Oh,
Shaun of the Dead, the first of the Cornetto trilogy with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, directed by Edgar Wright. Just hilarious. Just love it. Zombies, comedy, good stuff.
Number 56 for me, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Ooh. Khan! 55, Inception.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I expected it to be higher on your list, really.
Nope, right in the middle. Well, just about to the middle here. So,
all right, number 55, Platoon.
Nice. Another Vietnam. 54, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. The original? Question mark. There might have been a silent version, honestly. I am referring, in my case, to the Disney one starring James Mason and Kirk Douglas. There might have been one before that. Jules Verne wrote this story like years before this one was even made, and so there might have been a silent film version or something, maybe. But it's just a great adventure movie. Once again, this is a real palatable old movie. Like, if you're like, I don't know if I can watch an old movie, this would be as far, because it's easy to watch like old cartoon ones sometimes, but as far as like with real people, this is a real palatable adventure story.
You know what's a shame?
What's that?
I feel like there should be, we're getting all these streaming services. I feel like there should be like a specific streaming service for like each era of movies from like 34 to like 45 or something like that, and call it silver screen or something. I don't know.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, you could have like the silent films or something,
or from like I don't know, 72 to 81.
I think in a perfect world there would be something like that, but now that everyone fights so much over who owns the rights to what, it's just hard to make stuff like that happen.
Yeah, because there's great movies like that that get kind of just, I don't know, looked over.
Yeah, there really are.
Number 54 for me, speaking of old movies, Young Frankenstein.
It's Frankenstein. 53 for me, Alien. The first one. With directed by Ridley Scott, starring Sigourney Weaver.
Number 53 for me, Deer Hunter.
Another kind of Vietnam movie.
Yeah, very...
More about how many times can we fit Russian roulette into a movie.
Very solemn movie. You know what's funny? I actually tried to watch this movie maybe about 5 times before I finally just sat through the whole thing.
Wow, and it made it this high on your list and you had trouble even watching it?
Well, I mean, when you're like 15, it's not...
Yeah, that's true.
It's... You know, it was at that time when you're watching these kind of violent movies. Maybe I shouldn't have been watching, but war movies were kind of like in vogue at the time.
Well, when aren't they?
I just said that without any irony. I don't know what that says about the time I saw it, but it's not. I didn't really think of it as a war movie. It's just like the effects war has on people. Maybe.
Yeah, it was kind of more trying to focus on that aspect of it, but 52 for me is Chicken Run. It's a little different than what you were just talking about, but in a sense this is a parody of The Great Escape, which was a war movie.
Yeah.
Chicken Run is just great. It's by the guys who created Wallace and Gromit and Shaun the Sheep or whatever those things you may know. Oh man, it's so good. And Mel Gibson actually is a voice in this, of all people. But this is just a fun movie, and it's even funner if you've seen like The Great Escape, because you see all the homage to it. But
speaking of fun movies, my number 52, Alien.
Oh man, we almost had Alien in the same spot.
Right,
that's crazy. We both had it right smack in the middle. Oh, funny. 51 for me, School of Rock.
Oh, cool.
Again, my wife and I just watched this, I don't know, within the past few months anyway, and still great. It's still wonderful. In fact, we were joking the next day. My wife was like, we should watch it with the commentary, because she goes, I could actually just watch it again right now because it's just kind of so fun to watch. It's pretty breezy, and it's just Jack Black being the most Jack Blackiest, and it's just wonderful.
All right, number 51 for me, The Iron Giant.
Nice. I am Iron Giant. Little Vin Diesel. Let's see, what are we at here? Oh, 50. Whoa, we're at the halfway point.
We are.
50. Now, this is important for me. I was like, what do I put at my halfway point? What do I consider the most middle of my list? What is that spot? I don't know. For some reason, I just thought about that, because I feel like this is the movie that bridges your bottom and tops, you know? And so what better to put there as my bridge than a Bob Hope comedy?
Oh, God.
The Ghost Breakers.
Oh,
I love The Ghost Breakers. It's good Bob Hope comedy mixed with, that time period thrills and chills, but it's just a fun one. There's slight racism in the movie. I nothing like really overt, but it's like it would be talked about on Twitter if it were said in a movie now. Let's just say he has a guy who works for him who's black, not a slave, but like just the things, the way he says things about how the guy's black is just like would never fly in a movie now.
Sounds like this movie is kind of problematic.
Well, but what I'm getting at is really it's only like 2 lines.
Okay.
And it's like you just kind of let it go because it was an unfortunate time period. So, but it's still just a fun movie overall, though.
Speaking of movies that I guess kind of tie things together, my number 50 is District 9.
Oh, interesting.
I really had no interest in seeing this when it came
Same.
out.
Same.
It just, I don't know, it was like, a spaceship settled over somewhere in Africa, and the aliens were these crab-looking things or something.
I was more confused about what it was supposed to be, and so it made me be like, I don't know. I think the only reason I was intrigued at all was just because Peter Jackson wanted to get it made, and I'm like, well, why does he think this is going to be something? Because I was back when I thought Peter Jackson could do no wrong. Now I know he can.
Now that the veil has been lifted, yeah, what can I say about this movie?
It's good.
A lot of kind of mixing of elements and themes. It's just a thrill ride from start to finish.
Yeah, sci-fi with interesting social commentary, I think.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of gave up waiting for a sequel for this movie. I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Yeah, there's not really anything. I mean, you could, but why? Yeah.
It's like the sequel to Tron, except I actually would like to see a sequel to this movie.
Yeah.
That sequel to Tron's never going to happen, people.
I don't know. Again, I don't know what they would do with Tron either, but number 49 for me, Iron Man.
Ooh, the original?
The one that started it all. Yeah, the 2008 movie that had the post-credits scene that made everybody poop a little bit because they're like, wait, what? And then 2 months later, The Incredible Hulk came out, and they had Tony Stark show up at the end, and everybody went, wait, what? And everything happened from there. But Iron Man, it's still just a great fun movie. It's fun. It's a fun movie in its own right, let alone the fact that it now is labeled as the one that started it all. So,
I really hate to be that guy, but that was kind of it for Iron Man. Like, in the terms of greatness, like, that movie is so solid. I don't think any of the others really lived up to it.
No, like, you mean talking as far as Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, they're fine, but they're not the first one. The first one really, there was just, like, there was a lightning in the bottle about the first one that just could never be quite duplicated. But I still think that character does some good work as far as the bigger Avengers stuff. But yeah,
you know, it's weirdly appropriate that was kicking off like your top 50. Because speaking of movies that started it all, I picked Batman 1989.
Oh, nice.
The movie that finally got Batman back on track.
And the movie that really showed that you could make a comic book movie work that wasn't cheesy.
Yeah.
So even though now we can look at it and be like, well, that's kind of cheesy.
Yeah, because Batman was kind of in trouble after that show with Adam West.
Well, it kind of tarnished Batman in a way where everybody just considered him goofy.
Yeah. I hate to say this just because, you know, I'm not a big fan of his writing, but I'm kind of glad Frank Miller did come on this scene. Because the people behind this movie kind of claim, Frank Miller's The Dark Knight really inspired this, even though thematically, two completely different stories.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm not a Frank Miller fan by really any sense of the word. But yeah, I am thankful for, like him kind of reviving Batman into what he was able to become. Let's see. 48. I was trying to remember where we were here. 48. You've Got Mail.
Oh,
really? This is Steven opening his heart up a little bit again. Just another solid love story movie, and it's kind of cute and quaint to watch now because they have to wait for their internet to like dial up to AOL, which is kind of quaint and cute to think about now. This is actually a remake of a remake. This was a remake of there was the original one that was called The Shop Around the Corner, which is what her bookstore is called in You've Got Mail. And then it was remade again, and it was called In the Good Old Summertime, and actually had Van Johnson and Judy Garland.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was for those of you who are into GIFs, there's a GIF of Judy Garland swinging her arms saying, "I don't care, I don't care." That song, "I Don't Care," is from In the Good Old Summertime.
Really?
Which was what You Got Mail's based off of. So there you go, a little fun fact for you for today. So.
No, I'm just going to ask this question real quick here.
Yes.
Have there been 2 Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan movies, or 3? I always forget.
3. There
Okay.
was Joe versus the Volcano.
That's the one. Okay.
Which Joe versus the Volcano and Turner and Hooch were both considered flops for Tom Hanks because neither of them did super well, but are now both kind of beloved by people.
Yeah, it seems like people kind of hold Joe versus the Volcano up there.
And it is. I mean, it's cute.
Yeah.
And Turner and Hooch is good too. I mean, it's cute too. Yeah. So it was Joe vs. Volcano, Sleepless in Seattle, You've Got Mail. But what's funny is I just heard something where Tom Hanks was considered for a movie, in the early '90s and didn't get it, or they decided not to offer it to him because of Turner and Hooch and Joe vs. Volcano being flops. He was considered box office poison.
Ooh.
But then every movie he did through the 90s, like all 7 movies he did through the 90s were like hits. From Philadelphia through Saving Private Ryan were like all hits.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. So, but anyway, yeah.
Everything came up Tom Hanks. I mean, he just recently kind of won some accolades.
I was going to say he's kind of still killing it as far as people liking his movies. I mean, he just played Mr. Rogers successfully.
You know, that's ironic because I know this doesn't really count, but in the show Drunk History, his son played for Fred Rogers, too.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
That is funny.
Number 48 for me, Fight Club.
Really similar to You've Got Mail.
Yes. Love story really at the core, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It kind of is. 47 for me, The Princess Bride.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's all I'm going to say. Everybody knows Princess Bride.
You know what? There's been a rumor circulating for a while that they're trying to remake
Don't
this.
do it.
And I'm just like, why?
There's no point. There's just certain movies where it's like, that's pointless. Why?
Number 47 for me, Independence Day.
Nice. I don't judge you for that. In fact, I commend you. I commend you for that.
What does that mean?
Well, because I feel like, not because of me, because I like Independence Day, but I feel like that movie gets a lot of flack now. And I think what we all need to calm down, simmer down, and understand is that movie was huge.
Yeah.
And some of you people who are giving it flack now were probably the people who went to it 7 times in 1996.
You know, I think it's funny because people say Batman 89 was like, the first, big budget movie that all these movies are trying to copy off of. But really, it's like, isn't it Independence Day?
A little bit.
Because,
yeah.
One, it was an ensemble. There was action, a little bit of romance.
And if you think about even the superhero movies, like the big thing in the sky, we got to stop. And then how many times where they just got to blow up the one thing that turns off everything else?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like kind of quarter way through the movie, the beginning of the movie, the heroes get their butt kicked.
Yeah.
They're kind of reeling, and then they come back for that, and just win the big game.
It's true. And one of your main heroes is a nerd.
Yeah.
So that's always nice, too, because nerds love that. My number 46 is one that Dakota's previously spoken of. Patton. Just a great one. Great movie.
You know what I love about this movie?
Patton?
Yes.
What's that?
There's a line, and it's, "Rommel, you magnificent bastard! I read your book."
I love that too. Where, yeah, I love that too. Where he's getting the upper end. He's like, "I read your book,"
and I had no context because I always thought that was a great line, but I had no context for anything that had to do with that scene. And then years later, turns out Erwin Rommel, who was an actual German general,
Yes.
wrote a book, and the kind of message of the book had was, oh, the way to win a war is lightning fast attacks, and you got to keep moving and
Yes.
get your enemy off. And it's like, man, this guy really like kind of gave away the playbook.
He did. He gave away the playbook, and Patton was not only a student of history, he just soaked up everything that had to do with warfare, and so he would have read that book, and that's why. As controversial as he was, Roosevelt probably would have admitted that Patton was one of his most important generals, if not the most important general he had in that war.
Yeah, there's sorry, I'm going completely off script. There's
I read your book.
There's also that other scene where he's talking about how, if it could just be, the enemy's general and his tank and me and my tank, and we sell this like they used to back in the day.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, you could see, I don't know if that was a real quote from the real Patton,
but it had to have been, because he would say that. I mean, he would have done that.
Yeah. But it's like, you're never going to hear General Montgomery Burns like, oh,
Eisenhower would have never said something like that.
You would never hear any of these other famous generals say anything like that.
Oh, heck no.
Just what a great man. What a great character.
Oh, he's a psychopath. I would have hated him if I would have known him, but what a crazy, amazing person to learn about now.
He's, as far as historical figures go, he's kind of like Lee. He was a failure all his life till it came to war, and then he's like a master strategist all of a sudden. He's
even like
claiming territory and beating the Rebs.
Yeah, that's what's funny about even George Washington. It's like he was kind of like a middling military leader, but then all of a sudden he was the exact guy we needed in the Revolutionary War. It's just funny how that happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right.
You gonna be all right there?
Yeah. I got the black lung pop. Number 46 for me, Once Upon a Time in the West.
Nice. It's a big movie there.
Yeah, and oddly enough, I didn't know I was a fan of Sergio Leone's movies, because I had always missed his, I had never seen the, the Man with No Name trilogy.
Yeah, that's what it got called, yeah.
Every time this movie was on TV, man, it's like, well, clear the schedule. I just got 4 hours, I got to watch this movie.
Yeah, with commercials, I'm going to be here a while.
It's like, well, my day's set. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. It's like every year when they show 10 Commandments or Gone with the Wind on TV, it's like everybody just like calls in sick the next day because we're watching a movie all night. So,
yes, great Western.
It really is. It really is. It's one of those that probably, like, you can see why it did work, but at the same time, movies like that a lot of times end up failing because they go so big and go so ensemble. But they got that one to work. Probably because they just had the right people do it, too. That helps. Oh, okay, where are we at here? 45. Despicable Me.
Really?
Yes. I think a lot of times when you say Despicable Me, people just think of those yellow oval creatures and how they've...
The Minions?
Yeah, we'll call them that.
They have a name.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say it, though. And they forget that really what those movies are about are just these, well, especially his first one is just a great story of a terrible man becoming a father to these three girls and how his devious adoption of them ended up changing his heart, and he learned to love really through these girls and became a great father for them. And it just ends, it's really just, that's the core of it. Yeah, there's the Minions wearing coconut bras and stuff, but it's a kids movie, you got to have that, I guess. But really at the core, that's what Despicable Me is, and that's why I like it. So, anyway, on to you, Dakota.
All right, my movie, my number 45, oddly shares some similarities with yours, Stephen, and it's kind of about a man just trying to steal something. I'm referring to Heat.
Oh.
Starring Robert De Niro and Al Pacino.
Yes, but only in one scene together.
Yeah. Two greats starring in a great movie. I don't know why I just said it like that, but
yeah, who directed that? Michael Mann?
Yes. The inspiration allegedly for The Dark Knight. Supposedly Christopher Nolan was watching this every day before he went to...
pretty openly stated that was like a big influence. Yeah, so apparently he watched it a lot anyway.
Yeah, you could really feel it in the beginning of The Dark Knight, but
for sure.
Oh man, so many great moments in this. Val Kilmer, I think this was like his audition tape for The Saint.
Yeah,
that was made a couple of years later, but saw this when I was just a young punk, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a great movie.
Yeah, and I guess you really could think about the interrogation scene when Batman has Joker in that room as kind of like their finally meeting up moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, 44, Braveheart.
Oh, okay.
The Mel Gibson starring and directing epic. Yeah, maybe this was the first real coming back of the epics, and then a few years later having Braveheart. Or Gladiator, excuse me. Was this movie with Mel Gibson running in a kilt and slashing Britons down. So, classic.
Yes, this movie, oh man, that speech. The speech right before the big battle. I don't know how many times, like, when you first see this movie, it's like, oh, that really gets you. Like, if that speech doesn't stir something inside you, I don't know, you might be a zombie.
Yeah, and this too is just one of those examples where you just see Mel Gibson is just like, he's in like 100%. He's so hyper intense through all those scenes too and stuff, like, and he had to just be exhausted. I mean, the guy's directing all these scenes too, but it's just crazy. But yeah, it's a good movie. Cool story. Even if it is pretty fictional.
Hey, there was a William Wallace.
There was a William Wallace.
And an Edward Longshanks. Oddly enough, I think the way he died in real life was way more horrible from what I heard.
Well, if you consider sending different parts of his body to different areas, because I think that's what they did.
Well, no, I mean when he was still alive, apparently.
Oh,
he got
yeah. In the movie, they kind of ended it more swiftly with an axe, but
yeah. All right, my number 44, a little less serious, a lot less serious, Office Space.
I would say a lot less serious, yes. But anyone who's ever had a job can fully relate to that movie.
Oh, man. There's so much to love about this movie, and I'm not just saying that because they basically stole the plot point from Superman 3.
They 100% did.
Oh, man.
Yeah, what a goofy movie. 43, for me, the Lego Movie from 2014, the first one. I do like the second one, but that first one is just great. Just magical beginning to end. Just love it. Who would have thought this would be the way they bring Legos to the big screen, and that they would do it in such a good way and not such a dumb way, like the first Angry Birds movie or something. But yeah, it's a great movie. You've probably seen it. I don't need to tell you. You people know this movie. That's right, you people. Dakota, what do you got for your 43?
Number 43, the movie that kicked off a franchise, but probably didn't mean to, The Conjuring.
Yeah, it really kicked off Yeah, quite a universe, huh? I mean, every other horror movie that comes out every year is like from the world of The Conjuring or something. And it's just like La Llorona. I didn't even know that was considered a Conjuring movie until it was out on video, and I was like, wait, that's a Conjuring movie too?
Yeah, it's and then Annabelle has become its own franchise, and
Yeah. The Nun is getting another movie, I think. I think they're making a Nun too, and it's crazy. It's crazy.
They have no plans to stop, which I don't know if that's a good thing.
Well, why would they? I mean, they make those movies for like $3 and make $1 bazillion off of them because everybody goes to them. Let's see here. 42, Toy Story 2.
Oh, okay.
I had to pick Toy Story 2 just because over the years I have come to really appreciate this one, and in a lot of ways hold it as probably my favorite, because I really feel like it's when Pixar was finding their groove with animation. So the animation is just so much better even than the first Toy Story. And just the story they put into it, the new characters they introduced, where the story goes, how it's talking about really deep things for a kids movie, but they always keep it at a kids understandable level. I find Pixar's really good at that. And when they screw up that, it's really noticeable, which is why those are the ones that nobody rewatches. You know, there's a few in there like Good Dinosaur and stuff that just kind of miss the mark because they're just like, they just don't, they're just not there. But this is one where I feel like was just a bullseye, pun intended, since the horse's name is Bullseye. But it's a great one.
All right, my number 42 has kind of some similarities to yours.
Okay.
In that a character finds out that his dad is evil, in charge of an evil regime.
Wait, is this Austin Powers 2?
No.
I was kidding.
I'm referring to The Empire Strikes Back.
The everyone's favorite sequel, it seems to be.
Yes. And I'm just going to spoil the list. This is the last Star Wars movie I have. So those of you who are thinking, oh man, Revenge of the Sith must be like 12. No.
We all know that Dakota has Rise of Skywalker as number 1. So, let's see. At 41, I have The Adventures of Robin Hood. This is the 1939, I believe, Errol Flynn adventure. Fantastic. Showed this to my boys. At the time, they were both under 10 years old. They were both hooked from start to finish. Because it's so noticeable that Errol Flynn and all those guys are doing their own stunts, doing their own sword fighting. They shot people with real arrows in this movie, and the guys just wore wood underneath their clothes, and they had an expert archer shoot real arrows at these people. Which means if they still missed the piece of wood, you would get hit for real. And that's the thing. It's like when you watch this movie, you're like, that guy really got shot with an arrow. And then you look up and find out this fun fact that they were getting really shot with arrows. It just makes it, I mean, everything about this movie, it's just, and if you've seen Men in Tights, Cary Elwes does a perfect, the way he throws his head back and laughs is exactly like Errol Flynn. It's great.
Oh.
So, yeah. So, what's your 41, Dakota?
You know, I still think the Fox was like the best Robin Hood of all time, man.
Yeah, well, that is a good one. That is a good one.
All right, number 41 for me. I really can't believe this is at number 41. The Social Network.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
Wow, okay.
I'm sorry to seem so abrasive, but you like that movie, huh?
I do. And I don't know, maybe because everything is like so nuanced, and I really, really love the soundtrack to this.
Okay.
And I don't know, I feel like everyone kind of just gives David Fincher so much like credit for this movie, but I feel like the acting is really strong in here. I mean, even
I think Andrew Garfield's the best acting in it for sure. I think he does a great job.
really, yeah, he does okay. I don't know. It's just a very solid cast. Kind of, who would have thought like the start of Facebook would be like just so convoluted? If it wasn't so just weird, you would almost it would be believable. You know, if that makes sense.
I think why I struggle with this movie is it kind of saddens me because I think that movie's supposed to represent my generation. You know, because we were more or less the same age as Zuckerberg. And we were there for the start of Facebook. You know, we had Facebook pretty early on. You know, within the first year, I think I had it where you could only be friends with people that were in your college network. And you had to have a college email to even have Facebook.
Yeah.
And it was like that. And I think when I watch this movie and just see how terrible these people were, I'm just like, this is the movie that represents my generation, and I think it's just hard for me to get past that.
I don't think it goes that far.
But that's how it's treated. Like, it's our generation's movie because that's what our generation is. We're the Facebook generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you still like this movie, Dakota?
You know, I don't see it like that. I just think it's a very complex story that probably in the hands of someone else. And I even hate to admit this because I don't like the writer.
Aaron Sorkin.
I do not really like anything he does. You know, he made that Steve Jobs movie a few years back, and I struggled to get through that.
He's so pretentious, too. Like, you have to read my script as I wrote it. Don't ad-lib a thing or something. It's like, get over yourself.
Yeah, that was the one downside of this movie. He won an Academy Award, and then all of a sudden, he apparently was like the greatest screenplay writer of all time. Which there's another writer that's responsible for another movie on my list. I'll get to him in due time.
All right, well, moving on to my 40.
Okay.
Jaws.
And that's the
original.
Another movie I'm surprised hasn't been remade.
Oh, well, they just believed in doing sequels for a while until they went too far with, this time, it's personal. It's just great. Honestly, when I think about this movie, I think about how it really just comes down to three guys who are so different from each other end up out on a boat to stop this monster. And I really think that's the heart of what makes this movie great. Not the is that kid going to get pulled under or not, but just when it gets to that point of like these three totally different guys just having to set out and work together to... It's really a Beowulf and Grendel type story when you think about it. Like, they have to go find this monster and stop it. And they need each other, even though they're also different from each other. And it's just, I don't know, I just love that about this movie. So, but yes, Dakota, you're 40.
All right, number 40, Psycho, 1960.
I thought for sure it was going to be the Vince Vaughn and Heish one.
You know, it's funny you say that because the director...
You forgot that one existed too?
No, the director of that movie a few years ago wanted to remake Psycho again.
Well, it's because he's a bonehead.
And it's like, dude, you failed the first time.
Well, he tried to make a scene-for-scene remake or shot-for-shot remake.
Why try again? You shot your shot and you failed.
Oh, man.
Move on.
Yeah, gotta let it go, man.
Oh, yeah, this movie... where to begin? I feel like if this movie didn't exist, the world would be a far less interesting place.
It's true.
And some of you are like, you're insane. But if you think about it, if it wasn't for this movie, there'd be no Halloween, which therefore, you know, all those slasher movies wouldn't have been kicked off. If it wasn't for this movie, I don't think the Silence of the Lambs probably would have that same style that it does.
True.
And yeah,
I just even think about how many filmmakers were like, this is one of the movies that really excited them about becoming filmmakers.
Yeah.
Even, just kind of the way that Hitchcock made this movie and how he went all rogue and outside the studio to even make it. I mean, if you're someone aspiring to be a filmmaker, I mean, that's a kind of a cool story to hear. Like, oh man, how he was able to pull off some of the shots in the movie, even.
Yeah, I think.
Let alone, everything that kicked off from this movie.
Yeah, I think even Zodiac probably wouldn't have got made if it wasn't for this movie. But
maybe there wouldn't have been a Zodiac though.
I think he still would have been out there, man.
Yeah, probably.
Oh man.
Let's see. My 39. We're up in the 30s, Dakota. We're doing it. We're doing it, Dakota. We're in the 30s. Die Hard.
Really?
The original. The classic Christmas movie where
the classic okay,
where
all right.
a barefoot man has to save everyone in the Nakatomi Plaza. So
yes, that old chestnut.
So there's a lot of roasting and open fires in this movie. Oh, what a good one though.
Yes. Truly a classic.
And really, this is another one where how many knockoffs of this movie were there? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I think this movie kicked off like that whole, there's
the lone
terrorist
cop or
takeover or something, and it's the lone guy.
Yeah. All the way up until Harrison Ford and Air Force One even and beyond.
I mean, even that, what's the franchise where something's down? London has fallen, and
yeah.
with
Olympus has fallen.
Yeah, with Gerard
London has
Butler.
fallen, and Angel has fallen.
Right.
With Jerry Butler. I call him Jerry. Jerry Butts.
Morgan Freeman is the president in all these. It's like
just the third one.
I thought he was in all of them.
No, in the first one he's like Secretary of State or something, or he becomes elected president, maybe like the second one or something. Why do I know so much about the Fallen movies? Let's move on. I'm embarrassed.
Okay.
Oh man.
Number 39 for me. I'm a little disappointed in myself because you think this would be a little higher. Little Shop of Horrors.
You put the list together, Dakota. Oh, Little Shop.
Apparently, I have to specify.
Those of you longtime listeners know that Dakota has a very soft spot in his movie for this movie. In fact, I think in the episode originally came up, this was your favorite musical or something.
Oh yeah, hands down.
And oh man, I wish I remember what episode that was. Dakota even sings a little part of one of the songs from it.
Good Lord.
So there's a little nugget to find. You have to go back and figure out which one it is because I don't remember.
Yeah, as a kid, it used to aggravate my mom because I'd be like, "Feed me, Lenore." She would stop what she was doing, turn around, and just glare at me. Like, how dare you use my real name?
Oh, I thought you were going to call her woman. That's what usually do. How dare you, woman?
No, even.
Oh, shoot. You in this movie. Just a magical experience for you, huh?
It was, man. Never have I mean, I saw it when I was small, like 6 years old. Never have I wanted to immediately turn around and rewind a movie so I could watch it again.
That's right. He said rewind, people. Oh, funny.
Yeah, we didn't have the good VCR then, so it took like 5 minutes to rewind.
What wasn't a 4-head VCR, so it took a long time? No. I remember we had a rewinder for a while.
Oh, God.
Because it's like, you got to use the rewinder because rewinding your tapes wears out your VCR quicker. So you'd move it over into the rewinder. And, yeah, we had one rewinder that was just junk. And then another one that rewound it so quick you thought it was going to just rip the ribbon right off.
Yeah, I remember we upgraded to one where you had to, like, hit stop and then, like, hold the rewind button down for 3 seconds. And we were like, whoa, this is like... That one rewound the film in, like, 30 seconds maybe, but...
Remember cassette tapes, too, when you'd be, like, trying to fast forward and rewind to get to the one song you wanted to listen to, and you're like, I got to get that spot. And then... You'd have those cheater friends who had the stereos that had little numbers on it, so they could could time it out. Like, I hate you. Oh, man. Number 38 for me, The Great Escape, which I've already referenced. That Chicken Run homages this movie, but this is a great movie based on true events. You know, they do the classic older Hollywood film where they Americanize it a little bit, a little more Americanized than the real event, but nonetheless, this is still just got a great cast, great score, just a great movie all around. Richard Attenborough, Steve McQueen, James Garner, James Coburn. Man, I'm blanking on names here, but there's a ton. Who's the guy in Death Wish?
Charles Bronson.
I said Walter Pigeon. He's not in this movie. I'm blanking on another name. Who's the guy who's in your Halloween movie that you like? Who's like the doctor? He's in this too.
I almost called him Sam Loomis.
Donald Pleasance.
Yeah.
Donald Pleasance. Just an all around, the all-star cast, but they all work to, everybody in this movie works together real well, and just it's about these guys secretly digging a tunnel out of their POW camp, and how they kind of get away with it or don't get away with it, or it's just it's an interesting movie. It's a cool movie, and I remember Steve McQueen had this stipulation when they wanted to bring him on board for this movie. He goes, "I'll be in it as long as I get to ride motorcycle," and so the whole cool motorcycle sequence of that movie is really only in there just to appease Steve McQueen to be in the rest of the movie, which I think is great.
Yeah, funny you say that, because isn't that like the most iconic scene?
Well,
from that
there's
whole
the
movie?
iconic scene they like to show now of him like jumping it over the barbed wire. Yeah, which it's crazy because I think he actually did that himself even. What's your 38, Dakota?
Number 38. As the years pass, I keep getting surprised because it seems like not a lot of people know this movie or have seen it, but they quote it all the time. Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
They do. I've only seen it, I think, once.
Yeah, it's
and it didn't like change my life, and so I'm like, huh. There we go. But a lot of people, just love that movie. Love it.
Yeah, but I used to, playing Call of Duty online, stuff like that, you'd hear someone be like, "It's okay, I got the holy hand grenade here." And I'd be sitting there, and I'd just say to myself, does this guy even know where that's from?
Who knows? Probably not.
One of the greatest lines of all time is in this movie.
What's that?
It's when the bridge keeper or gatekeeper, whatever he calls himself, is asking everybody the questions, and he asks King Arthur, what is the airspeed of a swallow? And he fires back with African or European. And then the gatekeeper's like, "What? I don't know." And he gets thrown into the lake of fire.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's like, oh, he played you, son.
I thought you were going to say it was when he says, "Your mother was a hamster and you smell of elderberries."
That's a great line, too. The ending, I saw this when I was just a little kid. It's probably why I like it so much. Because it kind of has like that really stupid humor.
Yes, it definitely does.
There's a scene where John Cleese, he's getting ready to raid a tower, like this castle, and he just starts running towards this castle like with this very serious look on his face, and there's like very dramatic music in the background. And then it cuts to the guards of this castle just watching him, and then it cuts back, and it cuts to the guards, and the guards are just looking like, what's going on with this guy? It's great. I love it.
Oh, man. All right, well, we're moving on to 37 now. My 37 is on par with Holy Grail, Dennis the Menace.
With Walter Matthau?
Yeah, this is the Walter Matthau, directed by Nick Castle, which, if you don't know who that is, he's actually the one who plays Mike Myers in the Halloween movies. So there you go.
Yeah,
he dabbled in directing. But this is more I mean, more famously, it was written by John Hughes. But this is just a really fun, goofy movie, and Walter Matthau just kills it as Mr. Wilson, really. And Mason Gamble's like this. Where'd this kid come from? He's just great as the little kid in it. But, yeah, just one I've always enjoyed, and one that I think I've been watching since I was 8 years old. So,
it was one of those kids' movies that kind of came out around that time. And it seems like a lot of them, and including this one in a way, kind of got forgotten.
yeah, well, there was a lot of crap ones. I mean, there was like Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah.
And like, this isn't that a year when they were trying to turn all the old TV shows into movies, like Leave It to Beaver, Addams Family.
I remember, I think
Flipper.
I think the Richie Rich movie, was that before or after this?
It would have been after, because Richie Rich is probably like mid-90s. Flipper was like mid-90s.
Yeah.
And they were mostly just crap. But this one, I think the reason it was good was that John Hughes was involved, and he knows how to write a decent movie. But then also, there again, to use a phrase I've used before on this list, it was just the lightning in a bottle, where Walter Matthau was just pitch perfect casting in this kid, Mason Gamble, who really I only know of like a couple other things he actually did. Just their chemistry and just the way he played Dennis is just great. So
yeah. I mostly remember Christopher Lloyd plays a really creepy looking bum in this.
Yeah, and then it kind of eventually develops into a Home Alone type ending where it's like, well, we got to beat up a robber again. Where Christopher Lloyd plays this robber thief that comes to town, but he's absolutely disgusting. He looks like he hasn't showered in like years. And how Dennis accidentally thwarts him.
The way Christopher Lloyd looks in this movie, he's
like a mullet thing.
Yeah, I feel like he'd be more at home in a show that was on at the time, Tales from the Crypt. Like some psycho killer from Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, it's like, but it kind of works because he's just creepy enough, whereas a kid you're like, it creeps you out a little bit, but it's not creepy enough where it's going to keep you up at night. They really ride that line well. And just the fact that Dennis just ends up abusing him to death basically just makes you like not afraid of him at all. But yeah, what's your 37, Dakota?
Number 37 for me is Casino Royale.
Ooh. That is a good movie.
The James Bond reboot starring Daniel Craig.
I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's my favorite James Bond.
Movie?
Boom.
Or
movie.
Oh, okay.
Boom.
All right.
Laid it out there. Don't care. Just deal with it.
I always figured you for more of a Sean Connery guy.
Yeah, I don't really like... I mean, like, I used to watch some of those older James Bonds, but really I don't even like them that much when I think about it. Like, they're like, I don't know, they're fine. But I don't know, I just like Casino Royale because it just kind of feels like a movie and not so much like whatever James Bond is usually doing. Getting AIDS.
Wow.
Or getting some sort of sexually transmitted disease.
Probably I think the most stylized James Bond movie out there.
Well, I mean, some of the older ones were made in the 60s, the 70s.
You know what I mean, though. There's like a definitive style to this one.
That's true.
Which is funny because the guy that directed this movie also directed GoldenEye.
Yes.
And it's two very different movies.
GoldenEye is very much just a 90s action movie. Yeah.
It's almost like they're about 20 years apart when they're, 14 years apart maybe?
But I think just a little over 10 years.
Oh, wow.
I think Casino Royale came out in like 2006, and GoldenEye was 95. So, I mean, it's like...
Yeah, because I remember GoldenEye was still using those the little miniatures in the scene where the jet crashes into the satellite.
They used miniatures, and then for that one scene, you could tell they used, like, green screen or something, and it was, it's kind of...
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't pull off any matte paintings while they were at it.
Oh, that's more Indiana Jones. Oh, okay. 36. 1776. The
Oh.
1776 was a Broadway musical turned movie where Mr. Feeney, as most people know him, plays John Adams. And it's about the Continental Congress working out, basically getting to a place where they were all in the same boat to, declare independence from England, and obviously the signing of the Declaration of Independence. But I like this movie just because I like the music and William Daniels, aka Mr. Feeney. He's just great playing John Adams, and I like just the songs in it and how they work with history. And then the guy who plays Ben Franklin's great too, and so it's just a good mix of humor with a little bit of history, and it kind of engages you to maybe care about these guys, even though in reality the Continental Congress probably would have a lot more late nights, heated debates than this movie maybe totally shows, but it still at least gets that point across. So it's a good one. One I've always enjoyed.
All right. For my number 36, I have Blazing Saddles.
Another musical. Not really. It's got music in it, I guess. Did you hear about this movie?
Which part?
Who did the music for it? It was some famous Western composer who did a lot of Westerns. And he didn't realize it was a comedy.
Oh, yeah.
And he wrote the song for it, and it made him cry because of how good of a song he thought he wrote for it. And when he saw the movie, he was so pissed that it was a comedy.
Yeah, I can believe it. It just...
I just can't remember who it was now, but I'm just like, oh man, can you imagine thinking you wrote this wonderful song? It was almost like when Elton John wrote "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" for Lion King, and then originally they had just Timon and Pumbaa sing it, and he's just like, I finally got to write a love song for a Disney movie, and you're having those two buffoons sing it, and that's why they had to, alter it to kind of have those two singers come in and do a more beautiful ballad version, let's say. But oh man, so you can about imagine how mad that guy had to have been. Blazing Saddles. Oh my goodness.
Great movie.
Really rode that line where it's like, is it being offensive or is it doing that to make a finer point? It really rode that line.
It is kind of crazy because when you think of great filmmakers, Mel Brooks probably is not on any lists you would make, but the man had some real hits in his day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, two of them are on your list that you like. I mean, because you've had Young Frankenstein, which one would argue that was more of Gene Wilder's brainchild, and Blazing Saddles. So,
is there more? Just kidding.
Yeah, well, yeah. But yeah, he was, he's definitely got an interesting sense of humor. 35. Inside Out. What? What, Steven? You have Inside Out higher than Toy Story? Yes, I do.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a complex story. I mean,
it's complex, and I think I'm going to say it. I know a lot of people don't like this, but as a parent, I'm playing the parent card. I think it just hits you a little different. Like seeing this as a parent where it's like, it's so good at showing those changes that, well, just you go through as a kid and you're seeing your kids go through, where it's like things just can't be happy all the time, and how there's more of like this there's more of a nuancedness, if that's a word, to our emotions than just like, I'm happy, I'm sad. You're those things, but as you develop, how much more complex you get. And I just think this movie, it's so cool how they found a way to kind of allow you to talk to your kids about that and for your kids to see that. And so, yes, people, it is higher on my list than Toy Story. Oh, man. But yeah, Inside Out.
Well, My number 35 doesn't come close to having a message. Number 35 for me is A Clockwork Orange.
Well, I mean, there is a message in that. We need to stop the man. I don't know. I don't know what the message in
Stop the man?
I don't know. Something. I'm not sure what that movie is.
I after hearing you talk about Inside Out, I'm like, oh man. My number 35 is a very, I think, well done, very stylized look into
Dystopia?
the world of a psychopath.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about you having that song on your list. I'm worried about you.
Hey, for those of you who ever wondered what Darth Vader looked like without all that costume on, the guy that wore the costume is actually in this movie.
Oh, David Prowse.
Yeah, and man, was he huge.
He was a behemoth of a man. Yes.
Yeah, I guess that's my cute little story about the Clockwork Orange.
That's about the cutest you can get with that movie. 34, The Three Amigos. I mean, what is there to say? It's just a great comedy. It's Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Chevy Chase. But it's Chevy Chase in a good movie. He didn't have many of those, in my opinion. But I just love the story of this, and then the way those three just play off each other.
Even in his hits, I feel like I didn't like him.
Oh no, I hate the vacation movies.
Well, I was more thinking of he's definitely the weakest part of
Caddyshack. Yeah.
And those Fletch movies, it's like, why? Why do these exist?
Yeah, I mean, why did they make a sequel would be the real question. Yeah. But yeah, I just love The Three Amigos. It's a good one. So what do you got?
All right, my number 34, I have Aliens.
Oh, with an S on the end.
Yes.
So that would be the sequel to the one I brought up earlier.
Yes.
It is a classic action, slightly horror.
The movie, quote unquote, about Vietnam, I guess, is how this movie's constantly described.
I mean, sure. I guess just maybe war in general.
Yeah, just, I don't know. You see a lot of James Cameron's kind of stuff he uses. It kind of started here. You see it again in Avatar, and to some extent in, why can't I think of True Lies? I couldn't think of.
True Lies.
I was just thinking of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he's wearing a tux and killing people like he's James Bond.
Yeah, pretty much. But he's really conspicuous because he's Arnold. 33. For number 33, I have The Passion of the Christ.
Really? Oh, wow.
This is a movie that I think is obviously controversial for a lot of reasons, but I think the biggest reason is so many people were like, this movie's so violent. When you think about it, it's really not even as violent as most of some other movies we've brought up on our list. But I think why this one feels violent is because you're just watching one man being just scourged the entire, not for the entire movie, but a good chunk of the movie is Jesus just being, obviously whipped and tortured and beaten down. And I mean, that is what the Passion is. And so I don't know how else I mean, Mel Gibson made, in terms of that stuff, a very accurate movie. And I just think this movie, I'm a visual person, and so I think this movie really caused me to think about what Jesus did in just bring it into a bigger light, because you can read the few sentences about it, but then when you kind of see it laid out, like all of what he did, how it really kind of affects you in that way when you see it in a more realistic fashion like that. The complete pain and agony of execution that he went through. And so, yeah, for that, it's just, that high on my list. And I just realized I have it at 33, which is ironic because that's how old Jesus would have been when he was killed. So, didn't even plan that. And that's how old Jim Caviezel was when he took on the role. So, fun fact for you.
Oh, you would think he'd be younger. I did not imagine him being that old at that time.
No, he was that old. And then I don't know, Mel Gibson has been teasing again that he still wants to do the sequel to this. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But
my number 33 is The Fly, the 1989.
Another body horror movie.
Oh, The Fly. Let me count the ways I like you.
I think it's I like thee.
But, man.
Do you like mini Cronenberg movies, or is this kind of like the one?
No, this is only the one, really. Thought this was a really... And to be honest with you, I'm not even a fan of body horror movies. Especially the ones from this era. They're all... It's like they were all trying to, like, aspire to be something than what they were.
Yeah, well.
And, I just like this one because it's a great horror movie. I mean, you got basically just a man with a dream, falls for a woman, horrible accident ensues, and man turns into a monster.
That really is just that's the Cliff Notes version, isn't it?
Yeah, and oh man, even to this day, just the way the main character, Seth Brundle, the way he kind of de-evolves, just, oh my God, it's just disturbing.
Yeah, there was a quick shot of Jeff Goldblum because my wife and I have been enjoying that show, The World According to Jeff Goldblum on Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah.
It's great because he is the most bizarrely beautiful man ever. I don't know. But there's an episode about makeup, and he goes, I've worn my a lot of makeup in movies at times or whatever, and they show just an image of him like with the like distorted face from The Fly, and my wife was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Yeah, that's from The Fly."
Because funny thing is, it's probably not even some of the worst makeup.
Oh no, it was just like a face shot. It wasn't even when he was like the most
when they had him like hunched over and
just absolute disgusting
with the giant, I don't know, crab arm almost.
Yeah, it didn't seem like he's turning into a fly, but yeah, that movie's bizarre, all right. But it's definitely a very Dakota movie. I can see why you'd like that one. You just like those kind of bizarrely different ones, don't you? Let's see, where are we at here? 32. Batman Begins.
Oh, okay.
I still think this is my favorite out of the 3 Dark Knight trilogy movies. I really like The Dark Knight, obviously. I like The Dark Knight Rises for what it is. It didn't do everything perfectly, but it still worked. But I think Batman Begins is probably just the most... I think it's the best made out of the 3 in a lot of ways, honestly. And I think it's probably... It probably is one of the best superhero origin movies, too, of any superhero origin movie. Just I like the way it was done, the way it was made, and how they kind of were able to integrate certain flashback things with what is Bruce going on with Bruce, And I don't know. I just think because just focusing on the idea of fear, how well he got that to work and what that meant to Bruce, how he was able to use that when he became the Batman, and then the fact that they had the villain in that movie be Scarecrow, who's all about fear. You know how all those things kind of played together into that idea. I just thought made it a really well done movie. But yeah, Batman Begins. It's a good superhero movie all around. Good movie.
Okay. My number 32 is the Michael Mann thriller Manhunter.
Oh, okay.
Which is a horrible title.
Yeah.
For a movie based on a book, and the name of the book was Red Dragon.
Which might be a more familiar name to some of you.
Yes, this is the first book, or Red Dragon was the first novel that Thomas Harris wrote that had the infamous Hannibal Lecter in it. And Dino De Laurentiis thought that he was going to kind of kick off a franchise by getting this movie off the ground. Changed the name because he thought Red Dragon sounded like a kung fu movie or something.
Probably because he was thinking of like Enter the Dragon or something.
Yeah. And I don't know, the whole story behind this movie is kind of interesting. Brian Cox, of all people, plays Dr. Hannibal Lecter, and it's an interesting take on a movie. It was remade eventually. Anthony Hopkins, of course, reprised his role as Hannibal Lecter that time, though. But this kind of is a controversial statement, but I think this movie is almost on par with Silence of the Lambs. The only really negative thing I could say about it is, man, this movie feels like the 80s.
Yes, and I think that's probably what hurts it the most from being like lauded more, is that it's very 80s. Like the soundtrack even is like so 80s.
You know, it's funny because it was Danny Elfman that did the soundtrack.
Really? I didn't never realize that because it just feels so 80s.
I was going to say it was with his band because he was in a band, and I think they were called Oingo Boingo.
Yes, Oingo Boingo, because it was some weird name.
Yeah, and they did like some of the music for this, and it's just...
I think it's just like, everybody wanted to use synthesizers, and it just doesn't hold up.
Yeah, it's and the thing about it is, the problem I think kind of originates with Michael Mann, because at the time he was what was the show with Don Johnson?
Miami Vice.
Yeah,
which is very 80s.
Yeah, I feel like he tried to kind of carry over to that whole thing.
Yeah,
because I mean, if you were living in the 80s or not, on that show, he just made like everyone cool.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I mean, my oldest brother, there's a huge age from my oldest brother, my youngest brother, and my oldest brother was very influenced by Don Johnson. He wore like a white suit.
What?
To be like John Johnson, and like his senior photos even in like a Don Johnson-y white suit. So
did he roll up the sleeves on?
I don't know if he ever did that. I'll have to see if he ever did that, because who knows?
Man.
He could have. Like they had Steve do that on Stranger Things, like roll up the sleeves on suits and stuff to kind of have that look. But let's see, 31. At 31, I have Elf. Elf with Will Ferrell, directed by Jon Favreau.
What's with you and the Christmas movies?
Well, this is only like, the second one? Because, I mean, I had Home Alone in this. I mean, and if you want to count Die Hard.
Oh, I am calling Die Hard.
Well, okay. Yeah, okay. Elf. But you don't have to just watch Elf at Christmas time. I mean, yeah, it's a Christmas movie, but it's just a great movie anytime you watch it. This movie's fun and funny, and just brings a slap-happy smile to your face. This is Will Ferrell at his best, in my opinion, honestly. That maybe shows you what I think of some of his other performances. I think a lot of times he ends up going too far, and in this one, he was able to play the character so innocently without it coming across as like mean-spirited, and so for that I commend him, and it made this movie all the better. And this was kind of the beginning of Jon Favreau getting bigger movies, and I still enjoy the things Jon Favreau is doing this day with The Mandalorian. So another cool thing about this movie, I guess, too, is it just kind of helped him keep moving up the ladder. So yeah, Elf. Everybody knows that, I'm sure, that movie.
All right, my number 31 is To Kill a Mockingbird.
Nice.
Yes.
It's a class. The original.
Oh man,
I
was there
no,
ever?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Oh, but your favorite guy, Aaron Sorkin, has redone it for Broadway, which means it's probably like got a lot of stupid modern social commentary added to it. But yeah, it's Kill a Mockingbird. Great book, great movie. They both are great in their own right. So,
yeah, some really great performances here.
Yeah.
And I don't know, not an overly long movie.
Nah. Young Robert Duvall
Yeah.
is Boo Radley. So that's kind of cool to see him young but still look old, because he always had a receding hairline, I think. But obviously, you know, the standout would be Gregory Peck as Atticus Finch. But yeah, I would say, like you were saying, like overall the whole cast is good. You know, the girl they got to play Scout is good, and yeah. 30 for me, Galaxy Quest. I'm glad to see that this movie's finally getting more love. I've been holding a torch for this movie since I saw it in theaters in 1999.
You saw it in theaters?
I
Ooh.
did. I saw it in theaters, and and when I saw it in theaters, I caught it right there in theaters. I noticed that Sigourney Weaver said the F word, but how they dubbed over her saying "screw that," and then I found out later how this movie was gonna be rated R, and they toned it down. But yeah, it's great. Like, it's one of those where, like, the more you know about Star Trek, probably the more hilarious this movie becomes. But I think what this movie really ends up being, and probably why it wasn't as big of a hit as it could have been, is it's really a love letter to fans of things, and to fans who are going to Comic-Cons and all those cons. But this was before all that culture had become so mainstream, and so it kind of missed its audience, but it's still just... So I think that's why it's like all of a sudden getting noticed again and talked about more, because it was just probably 10 years ahead of its time as far as people even knowing what Comic-Con was. So, or any con, really. So yeah, it's kind of it's equally a love letter to like Star Trek and a love letter to just nerds. And it's just a hilarious movie with great performances. And I love how Sam Rockwell plays a character named Guy in this movie. And he's the one that nobody can like remember his name, kind of, because I feel like that's how he was for years as an actor in real life. Where it's like, oh, he was that guy in that thing. So I love that too.
Yeah, I used to think of him as a low-rent Steve Buscemi.
But now I would say that he's almost more A-list than Steve Buscemi these days.
Well, apparently a phrase that's getting thrown around Hollywood now is directors are talking to their casting directors like, I need a Sam Rockwell type.
Just get Sam.
And, you know, the problem is, though, I think he's probably too serious of an actor to just take anything. You know,
well, I mean, you should be picky that you're not in just every garbage movie there is.
Oh, I think Robert De Niro would disagree.
Yeah, well, maybe. So, but yeah. So what's your 30, Dakota?
Number 30. Oh, man, the big 3-0. You know, it's funny that this is number 30 because I feel like this was already on my list. Once Upon a Time in America.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Well, you had Once Upon a Time in the West on your list.
Yeah.
Is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on your list?
No, not at all. Maybe if we had a list of like 10,000 movies.
Yeah.
Not even then, just kidding. Another Sergio Leone movie. This time about gangsters, though, not set in the Old West.
You're going to say about gay men. I was like, what?
No. Movie starts when our protagonist is just a child. Poor child at that, growing up in New York. And follows his rise
Question mark?
through. I don't know if you call it, because he's never really on top in this movie, but follows his life through organized crime and kind of shoots forward sometime when he's older. It's a very interesting movie starring Robert De Niro back when he gave a crap.
Oh, man. Well, my 29 is Back to the Future, which we've already talked about because Dakota had his list further down, but I have it further up, so in your face. No, just kidding. It's a great one. I mean, you guys know that. That's just an easy one.
It's interesting because the dad, I always forget his name.
Crispin Glover.
Such a weirdo. You know he's only in this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get a look-alike
But
for the later movies.
it's weird because you tell people that, and they're like, no, he was in the other ones. It's like, nah.
The dad was, but it wasn't him. Yeah, he fought for more money or something like that is what was the thing they always said. And then he got mad when they used his likeness without his permission. I don't know. It was like a whole thing. But the first one especially is good, and the sequels are fine. But the first one is especially just great.
Oh yeah.
So, what do you got?
All right, for number 29. Once again, I surprised myself because
You just act like you didn't realize, like, I didn't know this was on the list.
No. When I composed the list, I was surprised I put this one in the top 50, much less the top 30, and that's Blade Runner.
Oh, okay.
And some of you are like, what? Blade Runner is a great movie.
The original or 2040?
The original.
Well, what I mean, though, is the original or the director's cut, the final cut?
Okay.
The cut of cuts?
Whichever one where Deckard thinks he might be a replicant and the movie supports that evidence, I guess.
You like that one?
Yeah.
I think that's the director's cut.
Because, man, the one with the voiceover with Harrison Ford's voiceover.
Oh, yeah. That's the original.
Yeah, that's
terrible. He didn't even... I think the problem there is Harrison Ford thought the voiceover was a bad idea, too. So you could just tell he didn't care.
Yeah, he has gone on and said that he purposely made the voiceover bad.
Well, he just sounds like he's like bored out of his mind or something.
And it's not. It's just bad. Like whoever wrote this should just get a kick in the get a kick in the pants.
Yeah,
it's just bad writing, and Harrison Ford I don't think cares about bad writing, but I think he knew that this was just. A terrible idea.
I mean, he was in Hollywood Homicide, so...
Yeah, I think it's...
6 days, 7 nights.
Cinematically, I think this is a great movie. I don't think Harrison Ford in particular is amazing. People kind of hold his performance up, like try to put it on a pedestal. I don't think it's that great.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think like Rutger Hauer would maybe be more of...
Yeah.
He's given a little bit more than maybe Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford kind of has a tough role in this movie because it's like he's the one who carries you through the movie, but he doesn't have a whole lot to do in one sense. Yeah. I mean, even though he's the one investigating and is going around and stuff, it's a weird role.
I feel like if this movie came out today, people would be screaming like, oh, I think the replicants in this movie deserve a prequel.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, you're right, they do, because they're probably the most interesting part of this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
And no, I'm not referring to Sean Young. Yeah, I think anyone could have played that part as good as she did. People also are like, oh man, she was great in that. It's like
this was like
just
was this before Splash? as far as Daryl Hannah being in, she played the replicant in this movie too.
I think it was.
It had to have been, because I think Splash was like 84 or something, and this would have been like, what, 81? Or,
Yeah.
because it was like somewhere between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi or something, and Indiana Jones could fit in there somewhere too, but Harrison Ford is a busy guy there. So, yeah, Blade Runner. Okay, let's see. We're at 28 here. I have There Will Be Blood.
Oh, okay.
This is a movie that I think a lot of people will be like, well, it's all dependent on Daniel Day-Lewis's performance. And his performance is what carries the movie. But I still think the story that's happening in this movie is really interesting. I think that this is the most pure American movie ever made, because I think that this movie is truly the American dream and experience, and that is greed.
Okay.
And just pushing yourself to get ahead, and a lot of times not worrying about who you're trampling over to get there. And I think the other thing you see in this movie is his counterpart becomes this Eli Sunday, who's like this preacher. And then I think on that end you see Eli Sunday supposedly holding to these convictions, but then all of a sudden he becomes like a weasel and is crumbling under the power of wanting the greed of money too. And then that's just one aspect of this movie, because then you also just have their whole kind of rivalry and tension, and just you basically watching a man go insane on top of it all. And so I think there's just a lot in this movie that really is the American experience dark. Like the dark American experience that happens a lot. And I don't know, just top to bottom, I think the look of this movie, the way it's directed, and all the performances, I think, are really good in this movie. So, yeah.
And admit it, you're in love with that line, I drink your milkshake. Come on.
Well, I mean, that did become like the what do you want to call it? Yeah, like the line of the movie. It became like the I am your father of this movie. But there's actually, it's kind of funny, because I think there's a lot of kind of iconic lines in this movie, but they're not really iconic unless you've seen it. I feel like I drink your milkshake is just something a lot of people say, whether they've seen this movie or not.
Yes, I also agree that it's a pretty great movie, and I used to have a shirt that had that on it, that's saying, I drink your milkshake. It's great.
But yeah, I when he is like just lost it by the end and he's forsaking his adopted son or whatever, I think that line's pretty iconic too. He's just screaming at him as he's walking there. There's a bastard in a basket. It's like he's just like, that's when you just see he's completely unhinged and is losing his mind and can't even accept any sort of olive branches or forgiveness or anything or give it to. And that's what I mean. I feel like this is, like I said, I feel like it's the American dream / cautionary tale, maybe, of sorts too.
All right, with that being said, I'll move on to my number 28. Also a cautionary tale, but this cautionary tale is a lot different. It's if you're in a horror movie, don't have sex because you'll die.
Wow. It is a cautionary tale, I guess.
My number 28 is Halloween. And John Carpenter has actually come out and said that was basically one of the messages of the movie.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy. And then
he said
It Follows just ran with it?
I guess, but yeah. Some people accuse this movie of kind of stealing some elements from previous movies and kind of like weaving them all together, coming up with their own thing. Because this wasn't like the first movie about a serial killer going on a rampage on a holiday. Because before this, we had Black Christmas.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but that I feel
The
like,
original.
yes, yes. But I feel like this movie is kind of its own thing. Famously made for like nothing, and then grossed all the money in the world at the time. Well, I think it was like 70, 80 million or something, which it's a lot of money in 1970s money, guys.
Especially when he made this movie for like $10.
I think it was 150,000 or something.
I was gonna say it's like in the thousands. I mean, it wasn't even like $1 million that he made it for. So
yeah, it's and the funny thing is, the people behind it, the producer Mustafa Akkad, supposedly he had like no faith in the movie. He just thought it'd make back the money he put into it.
nice.
And for him, he's like, "Oh, it was a win, I guess. I didn't lose any money." And then it birthed one of the most popular fictional characters in cinematic history.
Yeah, that's pretty true. Well, and then it's kind of funny too because who they get to be a star in it, but the daughter of two very famous Hollywood royalty. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis, her parents were Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh, who we've talked about already on this. Well, we haven't talked about her, but she was Marion Crane in the original Psycho.
Yes.
And so here at this cheap movie, he was able to get a daughter of Hollywood royalty to be the star and to become a second generation Scream Queen, really following in her mom's footsteps. And she's still playing this role.
Yeah.
My goodness, because they're making another one. She's going to be in it again, I think.
Well, the actor that played, they referred to him as just The Shape originally. And that was, the actor,
Nick Castle.
Yeah.
The director of Dennis the Menace.
Yeah. They got him to basically just put the mask back on, and he's in the movie basically running amok.
Mm.
Funny enough, you brought it up, but man, this it's interesting because in a franchise, like say Batman, you had the two Tim Burton movies and then the two Schumacher movies, and then it was rebooted. But with this Halloween series,
Yeah.
there's been so many reboots.
Yeah, and then there's been like,
But
those reboots didn't count, and
Yeah.
it was like, yeah.
because it was the first two, and then you had the third one, which was unrelated to the first two.
Yeah, it's because their original idea was to make it an anthology,
Yeah.
and then that failed miserably.
And then, you have 4, 5, and 6, which were all trying to follow like the first two. And you had H2O, which was a reboot.
Yeah, it was like the first time they tried to reboot. They got Jamie Lee Curtis back. Yeah, just crazy.
And then a reboot again with the movie that came out a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Just called Halloween. I thought that was a cheat.
And that's not even counting when Rob Zombie tried to do his Halloween thing and got a sequel. So.
Fans of the franchise, I'm just including myself in this. I think we like to forget those Rob Zombie movies. Those dumpster fires masquerading as movies.
There's something, I don't know. People either love or hate Rob Zombie. It doesn't seem like there's like it's okay because he's just so shocking. So, okay, well, let's see. So, I keep losing track of where we're... Okay, 27. The Incredibles.
Good choice.
Yes, this is a chef's kiss Pixar movie. Mwah! Just love it. It's Fantastic Four done right, is what this is.
It's funny you say that because Stan Lee actually did, when this movie came out, tried to accept some accolades for it, even though nobody said anything to him.
Oh, really?
It was so weird. He was like, "Hey, I feel like my work inspired this movie," And then nobody was like really saying anything. And he was like, oh, I feel like this movie's a product of my legacy, and still nothing. And then, it was weird.
Well, I mean, because he really had nothing to do with it. But I mean, it was obviously it was inspired by apparently Brad Bird just kind of took the comic book things he must have liked and kind of conglomerated them into this movie that, at its core is about family, but is also just a fun kind of superhero adventure. And so just a solid, great movie. I remember when I saw this in theaters too, and I was like, holy crap, that was really good for a kid's movie. So
I laughed a little harder than I should have. I saw this in theaters too, because there's that whole kind of spiel about, no capes, and then they show
all the guys how they got killed by capes, getting sucked into jet turbines, and
supposedly that was a callback to Watchmen, because there's a character in the Watchmen comic. His cape gets caught in a revolving door and he gets shot.
Oh man, that's almost worse.
That's
almost just embarrassing.
That's not really fit for a Disney movie though. So it's
they figured out a way to innocent it up. So I guess it works. Dakota, what do you got? What's your 27?
Number 27. I have The Road Warrior.
Oh man, another Mad Max movie. The sequel a little higher on your list, huh?
Yeah, this is the movie when I was just a punk kid of 13, I saw, and I just fell in love with it. Not the weird outfits that they wear in this, but I
don't know what you're talking about. I think they look great.
The S&M gear they're sporting.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
I don't know. At the time, I was into cars, and at the start of the movie, it's basically a chase scene going on.
Yeah.
And he's driving that souped up Ford that's just rusted out. And I'm like, I was immediately transfixed. And when you're 13, not a lot of things like go catch your attention like that. But
isn't it weird how George Miller was an ER doctor who just decided to start dabbling in filmmaking?
What I think is funny is he was traveling around the outback of Australia and working in emergency rooms.
Yeah, that's
to
what
make
I mean.
Money for this movie.
It's crazy.
And this movie is even crazier than the first one. And because they had those cars, and they're just like, we're gonna basically just destroy these cars. Like there's no backseas. They didn't have like a replacement for the car, and they got
one shot.
Got everything on that one take.
Aussies, they're crazy.
But a very enjoyable movie, and at the time it felt very small. Because you're at this age of your life, you're used to like American cinema. Yes, I just used that phrase, but
and I mean, it's also very indie too in a lot of ways. So
I think maybe the problem I had was I was kind of into the Lethal Weapon movies, even though I should not have been. And you look at that, and then you look at Mad Max, and it's just I had probably got more enjoyment out of the Mad Max movies, but like Lethal Weapon was what I was used to. So I don't know. Maybe that explains why this movie felt small.
Maybe
because in Lethal Weapon they pull up to a crime scene. There's like 50 people in the background.
Oh sure, yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. Let's see. 26 for me, The Great Mouse Detective. This is an unsung Disney animated classic from 1986, I believe.
Really?
Based on a book called Basil of Baker Street. And the lady who wrote the book was president of the Sherlock Holmes Club. And her idea behind writing this book was to get kids interested in Sherlock Holmes, like to kind of start them off with these mysteries at their age, so that when they got older, they would eventually, kind of beginner Sherlock Holmes, I guess, so to speak. Well, then Disney, bought the rights to make it into a movie and made this movie. And it's funny because you watch this movie now and you realize, like, wow, there's interesting things in this movie for a kids movie, like a showgirls scene, basically, and guys getting drunk and.
Well, it was a different time.
Yeah, I guess so. But I don't know. It's just like, God, I love this movie. I love Sherlock Holmes stuff, and I just love just the cleverness, I guess, of this movie. And man, there's just some cool animation done in this movie, too. So, yeah, great Mouse Detective. Good one. I think it might be on Disney Plus, too, for those of you who have that and haven't seen it.
Oh, great. All right, moving on to my 26th, Die Hard, which...
Oh, yeah. It was bound to be on your list, right? I mean, come on. It's Die Hard. So...
All right, I feel like nothing else needs to be said.
Yeah, we know. 25. I forgot I had this high on my list.
It's not Showgirls, is it?
No. Kung Pao, Enter the Fist.
Oh, good Lord.
This had to be high on my list because this movie was transformative for me. Dare I say this movie's flawless? This guy took two different actual kung fu movies and just kind of edited together scenes from them, put himself into it as the lead chosen one, and made this movie. And then he does all of the American dubbed over voice. He does everybody's voices. And somehow that works. And it's a masterpiece. Kung Pao Enter the Fist is a masterpiece of cinema.
Okay.
I don't care what anybody says. It's the perfect parody. There, I said it.
Oh, man.
And I quote this movie a lot.
I do admire the ingenuity it took to make this movie.
Oh my gosh. When he gets asked about making a sequel to this, he's like, it was such a headache to make that movie. He goes, I don't know if I have the patience and gumption to do it again.
I am actually surprised that no one at like a studio head has tried to tempt him to, because this did make money.
Yeah, I think it did all right.
This was like everywhere. This and Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo, I remember.
And this is, just so you know, a lot better than Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo, I'm sure. I've never seen Deuce Bigelow, but I guarantee this is better. Oh, my goodness. So what do you got at your 25, Dakota?
Well, I don't know if my film's going to compete with yours. Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, geez. Well, we all know which one of these two is better at 25. Saving Private Ryan.
The movie that reignited the war epic, pretty much.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Great performances all around.
And had a shockingly accurate opening scene on Omaha Beach.
Yes, which has been aped in everything from movies to video games and comic books and back again.
Yeah, really it has.
Just great movie. That's all I can say.
It is. It's not a true story, but like the places they go and certain events are things that actually existed, and so it's just a well done movie. Yeah.
This is going to be my closing kind of statement for this. I feel like if this movie wasn't made, these modern shooters we have, of course, Medal of Honor kind of thrived off this movie for a while.
Which Steven Spielberg created the Medal of Honor video game series. I don't know if many people know that.
Really?
Yeah. The original Medal of Honor was kind of his brainchild, and then DreamWorks, the branch of DreamWorks that did video game stuff, made it. So, yeah.
But, if this movie hadn't been made, or, if he hadn't done that, there'd probably be no Call of Duty, no Gears of War.
Well, I'm even thinking Band of Brothers.
Yeah.
It is kind of crazy. What that movie probably, yeah, what spawned off of that movie. Yeah. 24 for me is Gladiator, which we already kind of touched on because that was on your list, right, Dakota?
Yep.
So just awesome. It's a great one. Love it every time I watch it. So what do you got at your 24?
Number 24, one you already talked about, The Matrix.
Oh, yeah, you got it. Oh, pretty high on your list. It is a good movie, though. It's hard to... It's hard for people to understand there was a time when that was the only Matrix movie. You know, because I feel like the sequels really sully that movie. And you kind of just have to forget about them, and then it makes it much more enjoyable to watch.
You know, that's what I basically did. You know, there's some cool things. I think in 2, I think in 3 had some cool moments, but
yeah,
for the most part,
I went to the second one opening weekend, and I was like, I just left like, what was that? Yeah, like that highway stuff was cool, and there were some cool ideas, but it was like, and so I didn't even watch the third one for years. And then I finally watched it, and I'm just like, yeah, it didn't really change anything. It wouldn't have mattered if I watched that or not. So, yeah. But the first one, you can't knock the first one. It's good. 23 for me, I have The Lion King, the original. I have to say that now, I guess, the animated original. This was just a touchstone movie for me, just because when it was new, we got it on video right when it came out. I watched it 3 times within the first weekend we had it. You know, it was just one of those movies that just kind of imprints on you, and then you just have to love it because it's so imprinted on you, and that's what happened with this. And I mean, it is a well-made movie.
Yes, I actually used all my allowance money to buy the soundtrack to this on tape.
Oh, funny.
Not even CDs.
That's
tape.
Hilarious. Needed you some Elton, huh?
I mean, yes, it did. Great movie from start to finish. You know what's interesting about my number 23?
What's that?
I have The Lion King, same one.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You have Lion King at 23. I'm looking at his list right now because I almost don't believe this. Where is he?
It's at the way bottom.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I wondered if that would happen because we didn't like show our lists to each other, and I was like, "There's no way." What are the chances of? Oh, that's funny that we both had it at 23. Oh my gosh.
Well, this is embarrassing.
No, that's funny. That's pretty cool that happened. But I think, again, we were in that age group where it was like, this movie was the one that imprinted. And, I mean, everything from James Earl Jones, Mufasa, to Jeremy Irons' Scar. I mean, Timon and Pumbaa were great comic relief. It's just like, just a great story of, even just the story of maturity. Even though I think that Matthew Broderick was poorly cast. I still feel like that Simba story is cool too. But
yeah, why did they pick him in the first place?
I don't know. They went to him and got him. They wanted him. I don't know.
I understand Jonathan Taylor Thomas. He was a big deal at the time.
Yeah, and he just needed a kid.
Yeah,
you know, he was a kid. But
something to get the kids like, hey, that's the kid from Home Improvement. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but never got the Matthew Broderick thing.
Like, yeah, this would have been past Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I know, that's the thing. It's like, you know who would be a good adult Simba? James Earl Jones' son, Ferris Bueller.
How would you have felt they went with, like, Wesley Snipes?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like trying to think, like, okay, let's say they went with, like, an African-American. Like, who would it have been in, like... Well, okay, this movie came out in 94, but we'll say they did a lot of the voice work, and we'll say like early 93. Who would you go with to be James Earl Jones's son, who would sound maybe a little bit like a leader?
Eddie Murphy would cost way too much.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy costs too much at this time, and also I just think that would be like just as kind of jarring as Matthew Broderick. Because Matthew Broderick just felt jarring when it becomes him.
Arsenio Hall? I mean, he was an actor, even though, you know, that show of his...
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it is tricky.
Urkel?
Yeah, Jaleel White. What about like Forrest Whitaker?
Oh, yeah.
Or like Lawrence Fishburne?
Lawrence Fishburne probably would have been...
Because they both would have been kind of early. Yeah, I guess, would those two have been known enough, though, at this point?
Fishburne was. Forrest Whitaker, I'm trying to remember when he came on the scene.
Yeah, I don't know, because it just feels like it wouldn't have been so jarring if it would have just been like, or Denzel?
He would have been probably a good choice, too. And they could have got him for cheap because before he was really...
I mean, he would have been an Oscar winner at this point, so you would have had a little bit of a draw still for like, Academy Award winner Denzel Washington. And Matthew Broderick would still be tied to him because they were both in Glory. So, yeah, I don't know. It is. I think maybe Denzel. Maybe we'll stick with that one.
Yeah.
We'll say that's our dream casting. 22, Apollo 13.
Okay. I was wondering when this wasn't coming up on your list.
I love this movie. I saw this in theaters, actually, too. I love it. I love the Apollo time, learning about the Apollo stuff, and I feel like this is just a well-made movie, and the special effects in this movie still hold up, honestly. Like the way they did the shots. Nothing looks real clunky. They must use maybe miniatures or something, because CGI you would have think still would have been a little cartoony at this point. So I'm wondering if maybe these miniatures, whatever it was, it still looks very well done, and all the performances in this movie I think are really good. I think all the casting is really well done in this movie.
It was.
So, yeah, just good start to finish, Apollo 13.
All right. Number 22 for me is The Princess Bride.
Oh, one we've already talked about there, too. Yeah.
The love story to end all love stories.
Is this a kissing book?
Which would then go on. Its legacy is being mocked by Deadpool 2, I guess.
A little bit. Oh, and speaking of ape, at 21, I have Planet of the Apes.
Really?
Which you already had on your list, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm, of course, talking about the original Charlton Heston, not the Mark Wahlberg or anything, but...
it will never be Mark Wahlberg.
It will never be Mark Wahlberg / Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. It's just, I don't know. It's just, there's just something special about that movie. From Rod Serling's script to, I don't know, the makeup effects is just, it almost doesn't work, but it works perfectly because they do seem like humanoid apes, and I don't know, it's just, it's crazy. Every aspect of this movie, and just like kind of the allegorical themes of this movie are interesting too. So, yeah, it's good. Good one.
All right. My number 21, kind of also a nightmare, but not with no sci-fi. Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, God. Yeah. Really two movies in one.
Oh, man. They had us in the first half. What can you say?
Yeah. Kubrick's showing up on your list a lot here, Dakota.
Oh, the list isn't even done. Oh
no. Is that a threat? Just kidding. Yeah, well, okay, number 20 for me, I have Miracle.
Oh, on 34th Street?
No, just Miracle. No 34th Street. Miracle was actually made by Disney, and I believe it came out in 2003, and it's about the 1980 Winter Olympics, specifically about the hockey team, you could maybe consider them ragtag, but it's really about Herb Brooks and how he put together these guys from all different places and taught them to work together as a team, and how this team of very young guys, I think the average age was like 20 or 21, how they were able to beat the Russian hockey team, who was considered the best in the world for years. And some of the guys on the Russian hockey team have been playing together for 15 plus years. And And so it's like this, not only is it this Cinderella story, though, it's also was really, it ended up kind of being this, like, it was like the Cold War did have a battle, but it happened in the form of a hockey game. And it was really like America showing that they were going to persevere over this communism that Russia was attempting to spread over the world, and this hockey game was kind of this, ended up being this bigger thing, I guess you could say, than just a hockey game in the Olympics.
A real life Rocky IV, basically, but on the ice.
Basically a real life Rocky IV, but without like a weird, like, now that I won the match, I'm gonna give a big speech. But yeah, and I don't know, and it's just I just think Gavin O'Connor was smart in how he got guys who knew how to play hockey and taught them to act. Instead of going the other way, that way all the hockey could be done so well, and they went out there and filmed it like right on the ice, and so you just feel all the hockey in it, and yeah, it's just a good movie, and I just love it every time I see it. So, Dakota, what do you got for your 20?
Number 20 for me is Aladdin.
Oh!
The original.
Nice. The original. The 1992 Robin Williams starring Aladdin. I don't know who else was. Gilbert Gottfried.
Who at the time was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, he's the problem child guy. So...
Before he, his main gig was saying Affleck over and over again in those commercials.
Is he still the Affleck duck?
No, they fired him because he made an inappropriate joke during that whole hurricane thing, in Japan.
I was gonna say, because I've noticed on some of the newer Affleck commercials where it doesn't sound like him anymore.
Yeah, him and 50 Cent apparently got together and decided to make some jokes.
About what?
When there was that typhoon or hurricane in Japan, and that the reactor went melted down.
Oh,
Was it the
and
Fukushima?
And then he did some inappropriate jokes about it, huh?
Yeah, so that sort of stuff. You lose your job when you're famous.
Yeah, was it Twitter or did he say it?
I think he posted like a video on Twitter.
Oh boy,
but he's. He was a legitimately funny comedian back in the day.
Yeah, and he has a really popular podcast still, I guess. I don't remember what it's called. Best podcast ever, something. He calls it something.
Just listening to him read 50 Shades of Grey and that voice of his.
He did that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Kristen Stewart tried it too, but she just couldn't stop giggling. And it was Kristen Stewart, so I think I made it like a minute and a half in. And I'm like, yeah, I'm out.
Kristen Stewart for an audiobook?
No, these celebrities would just read 50 Shades of Grey, and they'd be recorded, and they'd post it on YouTube.
Oh, my goodness.
That was how did you miss that, man?
I missed a lot of things. If it said 50 Shades of Grey, I probably just didn't click on it.
I think even the guy that does the voice of Honest Trailers did it too.
Oh, John Bailey?
Yeah, that guy.
The epic voice guy?
Yeah. Number 19 then.
Oh, let's see. I got Spider-Man.
Which one?
The original. Tobey Maguire.
Okay.
The original Tobey Maguire. I kind of went back and forth. It's like, do I put Spider-Man 2? And I decided just to put that Spider-Man. This was a movie that imprinted on... There's like how Lion King imprinted on me as a young child. This is the movie that really imprinted on me as a teenager. Yeah, just kind of got me hooked on... all these superhero movies even more. And so I just loved it. Yeah, just loved it. So it's not, everybody kind of knows this movie existed. Maybe you haven't seen it, though, because you've only seen the new stuff. These are kind of fun to go back to. They're just kind of campy and a little more innocent feeling. And he's kind of more of just like a happy-go-lucky kind of Peter Parker, and that's kind of fun. Spider-Man 2 is... great.
You say that very begrudgingly. Like,
No, it is. It's just like I was trying to decide what word to use, I guess. But Spider-Man 3 is like, it's fine. I'm not as mean as on Spider-Man 3 as some people are. It's just you feel Sam Raimi losing creative control and being told what the studio wanted to have be in the movie. And so you feel that enough where it kind of makes you feel a little sad as you're watching it, but it still isn't terrible. But
yeah, it's
But anyway, that first Spider-Man, that's just one that really just impacted me quite a bit at the age I saw it. But Dakota, what do you got for 19? Spider-Man?
No. Number 19 for me is The Sixth Sense.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
it's a good one.
A movie about, I guess, a gifted youngster, just like Spider-Man, but not quite.
Yeah, he's a superhero in his own right, huh? This is a good movie. A lot of people give it flack now, but it actually is a good movie.
Sadly, I think this is the only M. Night Shyamalan movie on my list.
I don't even know if I have an M. Night Shyamalan movie on my list.
Wow, I would have expected.
There's too many. I mean, we had to do 100, and there's just too many. I wanted to get on here, and even though I like, never mind. I got one coming here in a few. All of a sudden, I was like, wait, there's one specifically that I had to have on my list.
I was gonna say I would have been disappointed in you.
Never mind. I got one on my list. But yeah, it's like there's a couple of his though I really like, but I only had room for one. But yeah, Sixth Sense is good. It still is good. Number 18, I had Napoleon Dynamite.
You would.
I would.
Why?
Because I think, as you talk about what Psycho did and things like this, I feel like Napoleon Dynamite did in one sense too, in that it showed that if you were creative, you could make a movie. I mean, it was like Jared and Jerusha Hess were just a couple of people who put together a short film using this character and then got the financing to make this bigger movie, but still it wasn't that big of a movie, but it became a huge success. And all they did was just find some peculiar, they just took some peculiar comedic situations and put it into this wonderful, amazing, hilarious movie where we all got to meet Napoleon Dynamite. And John Heder hasn't really gone on to do much else that's really great, but I really think he's really good as Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, boy.
I think the reason you're saying, oh, boy, is because everybody was going around saying, flipping 12 gauge, and, you probably just got sick of hearing all the quotes all the time.
No, the charms of that movie were lost on me completely.
I didn't get it the first time, and then I was like, well, that movie was dumb. And then I watched it again, and I'm like, this movie's great. How did I not like this the first time? And I think I just wasn't ready for what I was seeing. But
I guess it's just one of those fads I didn't get involved with. Like, when kids were playing Pokemon, I was watching Star Trek The Next Generation. When Napoleon Dynamite came out, I don't know.
I'm new to Pokemon too. I didn't start that till about 3 years ago. So because of my son's interest in it. So
of course. But my number 18 is Hell or High Water, which relatively recent movie.
Speaking of fad movie.
Oh, okay. You know what? Yeah, what's there to say about this movie? I feel like I've talked about it a couple times.
Yeah, we have we actually have a review on this one.
Previous podcasts. This movie is essentially just a modern day Western.
It's depressing. I know that.
The ending is very ambiguous. Other than that, I just enjoy every moment of this movie. For me, this is the movie where I stopped thinking Chris Pine was kind of a one-trick pony, because that's, to be fair, that's all I thought of him. I mean, he was cast as Captain Kirk because he was good looking and blonde.
Yeah, I feel like he was kind of one of those actors who's kind of cursed with just being good looking, and nobody's sure if they can really act. It's kind of Brad Pitt's curse, where it's like, for so many years it was like, oh, you're just the handsome guy, that's why you get roles. And it's like, well, he's actually a good actor too, and he's not afraid to get into a role.
Now he's Academy Award winner, Brad Pitt.
Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of Chris Pine too, is that people are realizing like, oh, he can act too, Yeah. Maybe even better than his dad.
Yeah. I guess the only thing I've seen him in where I didn't really care for him was that kind of proto sequel to Braveheart where he was Robert the Bruce.
Oh, yeah, whatever that was called.
Yeah, on Netflix.
Yeah, it was okay. It was fine. He was in Princess Diaries 2, Royal Engagement. He played the love interest, and he's pretty much the pretty face in that movie. A lot of people like that movie a lot, I guess, but. Let's see. Where are we at here, Dakota?
17.
17. Oh, you're going to love this. Dumb and Dumber. This is the magnum opus of movies and comedies right here. I feel like all of life's questions can be answered from something that happens in this movie.
Steven, why do I feel like The Mask is somewhere further down your list?
No. This is the ironic thing, is I'm not really that big of a Will Ferrell fan, and I'm not really that big of a Jim Carrey fan, and yet I have Elf on my list and I have Dumb and Dumber on my list. But if you notice, those are pretty much the only two vehicles of theirs I have on my list, and it's because I really can't stand them otherwise. But Dumb and Dumber is just, it's so funny. Just everything that happens in this movie, and and you got the road trip buddy comedy, but I feel like that movie is life. Yeah, you just see life in that movie, and so I just love it. It's funny.
Oh God, Lord!
I used to you know how many friends I've made because of Dumb and Dumber. Because whenever I'm in in high school, whenever I was in a situation at a place, I really know anybody. You'd quote something from Dumb and Dumber, and all of a sudden 3 people would know what you were talking about, quote something back, and guess what? Had 3 new friends. So
see, that's the relationship I had with Dodgeball.
Well,
but I think we all were going through that at the time.
Dodgeball is a good one.
Get in there nice and deep black.
That's not usually the line I go with, but okay.
Yeah, L for love.
L for love. I've had better runs in my shorts, ladies. All right, what do you got for your number 17, Dakota?
All right. This one was kind of a big deal at the time. It still kind of is. Inception.
Oh, the one. Yeah, I had that a little further down my list.
Yeah,
it's
it's interesting because I don't think did we ever talk about this movie?
Not really.
Yeah, because
it came out in 2010.
It was a little before the Dakota Boys were a thing.
Yeah, and we really haven't had an excuse to talk about it. Because Dunkirk would have been before the Dakota Boys, I think.
No, it would have been during.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have. We just missed it. So
came out during a hectic summer, I think.
Yeah, it came out in the summer. Sometimes it's tricky in the summer, but because it was like a July movie, and that was during the years when I was always gone half of July.
Yeah.
Yeah, Inception. I mean, there's a reason it's on both of our lists. There's a lot of special things about that movie. I just love that movie.
It's almost like Christopher Nolan took these great parts of other movies and threw them together. Like there's a little bit of James Bond.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of Matrix.
Yeah, definitely can feel the influences. Yeah.
Basically the movie is kind of a heist movie when you get down to it.
It is. And that's the thing. It's like, but they're heisting thoughts and they're planting ideas.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I don't think there's one character in this whole movie that I would say was like screen time was wasted on. Like even Tom Berenger's in this, and I don't think he had been in a good movie in the only before this, except for like Training Day, for like that long stretch of time.
Yeah, I think Gettysburg from 1993.
Oh, Training Day would have been after.
Yeah, I don't like Training Day. So
Oh, okay. All right. And yeah, he was kind of, loved him in Major League. It was the glue that held Major League together.
Yeah, Sniper.
Great movie.
It is.
Yeah. But yeah, there's just this is the movie that made Tom Hardy, man. We didn't know we needed Tom Hardy in our lives.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't Nemesis.
Oh man. If anything, I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt's the one where you're just like, he could have died and we'd all just be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because this movie probably did help him a little bit too.
He's come a long way considering he used to be like the stupid kid on Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah, and he was in Angels in the Outfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has like Ryan Johnson to thank because he was in kind of some early Ryan Johnson movies, like indie movies, and that kind of helped him kind of keep.
Well, he was in Looper. I mean,
no, but I mean before that he did like Brick.
Yeah,
and what was that other one?
He did make that one movie about where he played the Italian guy who he meets Scarlett Johansson's character, and she's like the one, but he can't stop watching porn. Like, it was a weird movie.
Wow.
Yeah,
he played an Italian.
Yeah, he talks with like it basically sounds like he just came on, like stepped off the Jersey Shore.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's how did you miss this? It was
missed that one.
It had a very 90s feel about it. I didn't really care for it. And Scarlett Johansson also was kind of talking like she belonged on Jersey Shore.
Well, anyway, we better get back to our list.
All right.
We're in the top
teens.
We're in the teens anyway. So I'm at 16 here. Holy crap. Let's see what do we got here.
I should warn you, man, my list gets kind of dark.
We better speed this up. We're at 3 hours here.
Oh,
so
okay.
All right, so we got 16, Unbreakable. Here's my M. Night Shyamalan movie. His second movie that he did. It's my favorite of all the M. Night Shyamalans.
I really wanted to put Split on my list just because James McAvoy, but I just couldn't find a place for the movie.
Yeah. Unbreakable is just, I don't know, I love that movie. And this is kind of when Bruce Willis was still trying, so it's kind of fun to see him trying. And I don't know, this movie just has like an interesting feel to it. Like it's the way it's filmed, it's like he's trying to make it gritty, but it's like a drama, but it all kind of works, and it's like a superhero movie, kind of. I don't know. It all just kind of comes together and works. I just love it. But what do you got for your 16, Dakota?
I have, and I hope you're ready for this, Natural Born Killers.
Oh, boy.
I told you this list is going to get dark.
Gonna get dark.
For those of you who don't remember, this was... Oh, man, I think this movie came out in 99, so it was a little before my time even. But kind of stars... Well, doesn't kind of stars Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis. They play two star-crossed lovers who just decide to go on a killing spree across America.
It happens.
Yeah, it's I guess I like this because it's just like a really expensive art house movie. Like Rodney Dangerfield, I always thought he was cool till I saw this movie, and then I just, for a while afterwards, it just got the creeps looking at him. But this movie is not for everyone. I'm throwing that out there right now. Don't watch this thinking, it's something like, I don't even know what to compare it to.
But it's not like that.
It's not like Bonnie and Clyde, I guess.
Yeah, not really.
But really great Oliver Stone movie, and like I said, it's kind of like a very expensive student film, and I just really thought it was great. Robert Downey Jr. back when he was young is in this, and Tommy Lee Jones when he was less old.
He was always old.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, my number 15, I have The Avengers.
Which one?
Yeah, this is not the Sean Connery, Uma Thurman, Ray Fine mess. This is 2012's MCU event.
You had to bring up that just
you said which one. So
there have been like several Avengers movies and Disney's.
Well, this is the one that's just called The Avengers, though, and the other movie that's called The Avengers is the Uma Thurman, Ray Fine, Sean Connery. But anyway, I'm talking about 2012's MCU big event. This is the culmination of, at that point, 4 years of anticipation, and it worked. In fact, my oldest son still, I think, cites this as his favorite MCU movie. And he's seen most of them now, except for just a few.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's just fun to see them all come together. And, man,
I think
when I saw this in theaters on opening night, it was just so fun. It was just fun to see it happen and how it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So The Avengers. What's your 15, Dakota?
Oh, my number 15 is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, man. So we got a repeat there. Dakota says a lot higher in his list, which I don't blame him because that movie is great.
Yeah.
It's just a great one. If you haven't watched that new Apes trilogy that they did, it shouldn't have worked, honestly. When the first one was announced and it was going to star James Franco and some British director I'd never heard of, I was really worried because I'm like, man, I really would like to see more Apes movies, but I don't know about this. But it worked, and then the subsequent movies got even better.
Yeah. Very incredibly well-made movie from Matt Reeves.
Yeah.
And this is the movie where I probably actually started paying attention to him as a director. I didn't really, it's like he was just kind of a name that got thrown out there like, oh man, from the guy that brought you. And I was just like, nah.
Cloverfield.
Well, I was going to say, I think for a while they were throwing his name around because did he write or direct Cabin in the Woods?
Neither.
Oh, I thought he had.
Drew Goddard.
Oh my gosh.
Did that.
What am I thinking of
Well,
then?
see, what you're confused by is that Matt Reeves and Drew Goddard are who wrote Cloverfield, and then Matt Reeves directed Cloverfield, and so maybe you're kind of mixing their names around there. But, yeah, I mean, that's what made, I mean, besides the fact that he made some sweet Apes movies, I'm happy that Matt Reeves is finally getting his time in the sun here. And hopefully his Batman movie.
I was going to say, I don't think it's really begun for him because I think once that comes out, everyone's going to look to him like the next Christopher Nolan.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, hopefully he can just keep climbing because it's cool to see what he's been doing with different things. So, yeah, okay, my number 14, this is another very influential, imprinted movie on me, The Santa Claus. Oh, man, Dakota, it's another Christmas movie. I blew it. But the Santa Claus had to be on here. I mean, it just had to be. Anybody who knows me knows how much I love the Santa Claus. Not the sequels, the original. The sequels are...
How many sequels did they make? Was it 2 or 3?
They made 3.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
But the sequels are just... I don't know. They're whatever.
All I remember is Martin Short was in one of them.
He was in the third one. That's the worst. But like I said, anyone who knows me just knows how much I love this movie and how much I quote it. So it's kind of sickening. But I love it. What do you got for your 14, Dakota?
You know, I was going to make the sound from sing a little bit of Son of a Preacher Man, but all of a sudden I can't do it. I have Pulp Fiction.
Wow. Okay, Pulp Fiction.
What's
the Son of a Preacher Man? You mean that song?
Well, that. What? Oh my god, I can't even do it now. Wow. Get it together,
I don't know.
man.
He's falling apart. I think it's because we're 3 hours in. For those of you still with us, thank you. And if this is your third time tuning in to keep trying to get through this, thank you for coming back.
I admire your moxie, kid.
That's some mighty fine moxie you got there. Oh, man. So, okay. So, sorry, Pulp Fiction was your, where are we at?
You are on number 13.
You're at 14.
Lucky number
13. Oh, guess what I picked for my lucky number 13? Psycho, which we've already talked about, so we don't need to talk about too much more because Dakota had further down his list. I just have it a little higher because I'm not a horror movie person so much, but I don't feel like Psycho is really even a horror movie. I feel like it kicked off a bunch of horror movies, but Psycho at its core is really just a psychological thriller, which is maybe why I tolerate it a little better. And I just think it's a masterfully made movie. So I just love it for those reasons. But yeah, what's your number 13, Dakota?
I have The Thing, which I believe you...
Oh, the 80s Carpenter
Yeah.
one? Yeah. I mean, come on, man. Okay. Again, this movie's not for everybody. But if you're okay with a little bit of violence, this movie is a great isolation horror thriller.
Yes.
And it's kind of allegory of maybe the Red Scare. You know, like you're not knowing who could be a communist around you is what I've heard, but I don't know if that... Maybe that's more the original was supposed to be like that, but...
Yeah, I heard some people are trying to liken it to... I think this was even before the AIDS virus, but people liken it to that, and it's like, well, that doesn't really, add up.
Yeah, it was like when Stan Lee tried to retcon why he created the X-Men, where they were like, oh, is this like because of the gay movement? And he's like, yeah, the gay movement. When we all know, I mean, he started the X-Men right in the midst of the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's hard. I mean, people like to kind of retcon things sometimes to fit what you are excited about in the moment.
Yeah.
So it's always hard to know.
If you think about it, Professor X is MLK, Magneto is the one guy.
Well, he's
Malcolm
more
X.
of Malcolm X,
Yeah.
where he's like, we'll win through violence. And, yeah.
You know what's funny? He was actually a great speech giver, Malcolm X. I heard some of his speeches, and it's like, wow, this guy was really charismatic.
Well, that's why he had a lot of followers.
It's like I think he would sway me to his side.
But MLK was too.
Yeah.
You're the only person who heard like MLK was really like, yeah.
He was okay.
He was fine. I mean, he was no Malcolm X. Oh, shoot. Oh, Dakota, don't get mad now. Number 12 is White Christmas. Another Christmas movie.
Oh,
man. I'm gonna level with all you people. I didn't realize how many Christmas movies I had on here, honestly. I don't know. But I apparently love Christmas movies. But White Christmas is one that's just meant a lot to me my whole life. And so I'm sure most of you know it or know of it. And it's just it's a perennial classic, really. So, and it's just one, like I said, just been there my whole life. So yeah, White Christmas. What's your number 12? Dakota?
Number 12, Ghostbusters.
Okay, one that's been there your whole life.
Yeah,
and has meant a lot to you.
Oh, this movie was so entertaining when I was a kid. I just loved it. And the funny thing is, people like called it a comedy. I just thought it was like a...
It's not really a comedy when you think
like
about
a fun kind of action, like a fun adventure movie.
It's kind of like... It's like it's like more of like a goofy adventure movie with like spooky moments.
Yeah.
Or something. But the spooky moments are more gross. The practical effects make this movie seem disgusting. Of course, New York just seems really dirty in the 80s, too.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
11?
11. What do we got here? Road to Morocco.
Okay,
I
I
got it at
am
11.
unfamiliar with this
Road to
movie.
Morocco is one of the many Road 2 movies that Bob Hope and Bing Crosby made.
Oh, okay.
Dakota almost got through that okay without laughing.
I didn't even know these were things.
Yes, they made a bunch. They made
Like 13?
no, let's see, 7. I think 7. But Road to Morocco is the best. It's the best of the bunch. Road to Utopia, close second. But Road to Morocco is the best of the bunch. It's the one I got as a kid, and so it was like the first one of the Road 2 series I saw too. But also just over time, I've come to realize that a lot of other people think it's the best too. So I'm glad it was the first one I saw. That way, my favorite would be the best one. Instead of having some like, well, I kind of like this one, but it's an accident because I saw it first. But yeah, Road to Morocco, just a fun, I don't know, Bob Hope's comedy for whatever reason, even though I was a young 90s kid, I just got it, and it made me laugh. I don't know, I think I just liked his self-awareness, and he was the original fourth wall breaker. Suck it, Deadpool. Bob Hope did it first. So, anyway...
I'm just putting this out there. Deadpool not known for his originality.
It's true. You mean the Spider-Man Deathstroke knockoff? Yeah. All right. What do you got for your number 11?
All right. Prepare yourself, Steven.
Prepared.
All right. I'll throw a subtle hint out there. Why, hello, Clarice.
Didn't see this coming.
You gotta admit, it's probably where you thought it was, at the upper end of the list.
I wasn't sure how far up the list it was going to be, though. I mean, I knew it'd be there, but...
I'm talking about Silence of the Lambs, the great Anthony Hopkins starring movie. Yes.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, and did it win Best Picture?
It did.
I always forget, for some reason. I mean, I knew, like, he won for acting, didn't he?
Yeah. She, of course, wow, I just kind of...
Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster won. Ted Telley won for Best Adapted Screenplay, I believe.
Okay.
And
For some reason, I always blank out on if it won Best Picture. But
funnily enough, some backlash of this movie caused is what led Jonathan Demme to direct Philadelphia.
Oh.
Because
Gotcha.
The killer in this movie, his name's James Gumb. They call him Buffalo Bill. People thought he was gay, even though in the book and in the script it's never implied he's gay. Oh, maybe it's because he has that dog. I don't know.
I don't know. I think people just looked into like certain character choices that the actor took, and maybe like, oh, he seems like he might be gay or something.
Yeah.
And
But some people protested the movie, and Jonathan Demme kind of rethought things. He's like, maybe they're right. Gays aren't portrayed in Hollywood, accurately or not even nicely. And
yeah, well, just like, like, are they always being portrayed as like monsters or something in a sense, and that's the thing. It's like whether you agree with it or not is not the point. The point is that they're still human beings.
Yeah.
And that's
so much great acting in this movie. It's just, I don't know. There's no weak spot, but I would never call this like the perfect movie. I'm just saying, putting that out there.
It's no Kung Pao into the fist.
I'm just, I'm going to say this. I always preferred Kung Fu Hustle.
Kung Fu Hustle is good. Kung Fu Hustle, though, is more like Looney Tunes. So, okay, here we go.
Top 10, baby.
Okay, Dakota. Now, don't freak out, but
I'm waiting for it. So
number 10 is It's a Wonderful Life.
There it is. I thought maybe it'd be like number 4.
No,
number 3.
I knew this had to be in my top 10, but I knew it wasn't like a top 3 or 5 or whatever, and so I decided just to throw it right at the bottom there, because this movie is perfect. I'll use it for this movie. There isn't hardly a thing in this movie. I don't think there is a thing in this movie I would change. I like the way they... are you taking a picture?
No.
Looks like it. There's not a thing in this movie I think I would change, and I just love the message and how things come together. And, I mean, it's a Wonderful Life. You know it.
It is a great movie. I will give it that.
Yeah. And it's funny how at the time it was kind of shrugged off. You know, like it didn't do well. And it wasn't until like 20 or 30 years later when it got thrown on TV to fill time on the channels that were just always had things going, that people caught it and were like, wow, this movie's good. And then it kind of gained steam late in life. It was a late bloomer. So, yeah.
It happens. All right, my number 10.
Here we go. We're in our 10s.
And I struggled where to put this. And I say this because this movie's got a lot of heft.
Like because there's fat people or...
You know, rather than struggling like I did with the Star Wars movies, I just lumped all 3 Lord of the Rings movies together. So, you know, that's why number 10 is Lord of the Rings.
Good call. Good call. I like that.
Because, I mean, I didn't want to be one of those dudes who's like, number 7.
Return to the King. Number, yeah. I know what you mean.
Number 6, The Fellowship of the Ring. No, I didn't want to do that. So, number 10, I looped all of them together. I mean, they were all made at the same time, and you could basically edit them all together anyway.
Yeah. But, yeah, hopefully for this top 10, you're really paying attention. Because I really feel like this is where you're going to see me and Dakota more. Because my number 9 may seem random to some of you, but this was like my original superhero movie, The Rocketeer. Again, Disney made this. It was based on a comic strip / book, comic book, I guess. And I don't know. This is one of those movies where when you look at who the lead actor was, it wasn't like he was anything dynamic, but everything else about the movie was dynamic. I just loved it. I loved the music of it. Alan Arkin's in it. Timothy Dalton is great as like this villain, kind of being an Errol Flynn, kind of an Errol Flynn of sorts, but if Errol Flynn were like a villain. And I don't know, and having it take place kind of right on the brink of America going to be involved in World War II and all those things is kind of, it's just kind of a fun period movie too, besides just this story of a pilot finding this rocket pack and all this stuff that's in it. I love it.
You know, it's interesting because Timothy Dalton was like still in his prime when this movie was made. I mean, it'd be...
Yeah, more or less.
It'd be different, like, say you got, like, an older Bond, like Sean Connery, but no, this was like a Bond in his prime.
Yeah, he'd just been Bond.
Yeah. I always thought that was interesting, like, you know, because some of those villains they had in action-adventure movies, they were kind of just, like, I know I'm referring to the man from Raiders of the Lost Ark, where he's just like, this dude ain't winning any fistfights. Like,
yeah, right. Yeah, the guy who played Belloc or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, whereas Timothy Dalton, yeah, he could hold his own. But, yeah, it's a good movie. What do you got as your number 9, Dakota?
Number 9. I think you should have been ready for this. The Shawshank Redemption.
There you go. One of those very few feel-good Stephen King movies. I mean, most of the movie's kind of a bummer, but it ends up being a joyous movie by the end. Ish.
And, you know, I actually did read the book. Well, I read the short story because it wasn't a book itself. It was just kind of a short story.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Really interesting read. And that same book was also Apt Pupil, though.
Oh, God. Apt Pupil.
So years down the road when that came out, it's like, oh, well, I guess I'm ready.
Go. Yeah, and then that's one of the movies where you hear the bad things that happen on set that Bryan Singer is getting in trouble for. But anyway, number 8, I have Robin Hood, the Disney one with the fox. Again, very important movie to me. It still means a lot to me. Had to be in my top 10. Robin Hood is my profile picture on Disney Plus.
Oh.
So that's how much this movie means to me. So love it. Love Robin Hood.
All right. Number 8 for me is Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Nice. Judgment Day. That's what I play the pinball of this game, and so
Oh, that's great.
he always goes Judgment Day when it starts.
Yeah, we just had another Terminator movie, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's the best one since 2." But it's like that's not saying anything.
Well, yeah, it's because it copied 2.
Yeah. But man, this movie when it came out, it was just huge. This was like the Avengers of its day.
But rated R.
And still marketed to kids because
Yeah.
I had toys that they had
Well, yeah.
specifically marketed to kids.
Well, again, I also play the Terminator 2 Machine Gun Arcade game, and that was marketed to kids. I mean, yeah,
that was so much fun.
yeah, yeah. It definitely still is fun.
Yeah. Oh, such nostalgic memories. And, it was at that time when my mom was like, she didn't see action, violent movies, like there's anything wrong with that. It was just, have fun. Because, that was back before, like, movie theaters cared if you were underage.
Well, they were supposed to care. Yeah, and this movie was good despite Edward Furlong. I feel like he was kind of the weak link in the movie, like, this is the best John Connor you could cast. But what are you gonna do? Let's see. Number 7, The Court Jester.
Really?
This is a movie with Danny Kaye from the 50s.
I've heard of this. I've never seen it.
It's probably his best performance.
His best.
If you're looking for like funniest Danny Kaye, you think he's funny in White Christmas. He's funnier in this. A young Angela Lansbury's in this, and she plays this princess who basically is constantly threatening that she's going to kill herself if her father doesn't let her have her way, which I think is kind of funny. How suicide is just treated so flippantly and used for comedic relief in this movie. But oh man, this movie just has so many different moments where, I mean, this is Danny Kaye's movie and he just owns it, every part of the performance. So love it. But yeah, it's basically he ends up having to go undercover as this jester who people think is this assassin, and it's kind of this whole convoluted plot, and it's just a fun one. So yeah, Court Jester.
All right. Well, here's where we start to repeat ourselves. My number 7 is Toy Story 2.
Oh man, good for you.
So
having it in that top 10.
And here's the thing. I remember when this movie came out on DVD or whatever it was, tape, whatever. I actually said to a friend of mine, sometimes sequels are better than the originals. And I was like, Empire Strikes Back, Godfather 2, Toy Story 2. And the look on his face, he was like, what?
Some people get really mad about that still. Like, no, nothing's better. It's like, no, search your, you know it to be true. Just use an Empire Strikes Back line on them.
And his argument was Sid made the first Toy Story movie, and I'm like, you mean the future serial killer? Like,
yeah, I mean, definitely the Sid character is great, but I wouldn't say he made the movie where it makes it the best.
Yeah, the second one just felt like such a fuller movie.
Yes,
this Jesse's backstory, finding out Stinky Pete is kind of a villain, but is he though?
Yeah.
He's just bitter. I mean,
blanking on his Dennis Nedry is all I can think of. The guy who's Dennis Nedry in Jurassic Park.
Oh my God.
He's the voice of Al's Toy Barn Al.
You saying that makes me want to just say
Newman. Yeah,
Wayne Knight.
Wayne Knight, yeah. I just love him as that voice too of Al too. I just think there's just a lot of elements of that movie that make it better. But
it is interesting because I don't know. I always felt like with this Toy Story, some of them, like, say hypothetically they wanted to go live action, and it was almost like they could just use like Tom Hanks' actual like appearance. And with Wayne Knight, he just like it was like Wayne Knight's just here, like he's not playing a character.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's. I love that scene where he just falls asleep eating the cheese puffs, and there's just like he's just covered in orange and he's burp. I don't know. This is like, the going across the road with the traffic cones. I love that whole scene. That's the thing is I love Rex, and I feel like Rex is just funnier in the second movie too. There's so many much more. They do more with Rex and use him in great ways.
Yeah.
And if any of you don't know, there's a really good Toy Story short called Partysaurus Rex. That's really good, featuring Rex. Oh, that I love. Okay, let's move on to our number 6s. Man, we're getting there, Dakota. We're about 3.5 hours in. Oh, man. Again, thank you for sticking with us. I feel like we're doing a telethon. Again, thank you. Thank you. And if you'd like to give to Jerry's kids. Okay, we're at number 6, The Sandlot.
Oh, okay.
Again, I knew this had to be. All of my top 10 are basically movies where I knew they had to be in my top 10. The Sandlot. Oh, my gosh. If you haven't seen this movie, go watch it. It's great. It was made in the 90s, but it's about kids in the 60s, but it's timeless. Just the story of growing up and just the friendships made and it's just funny to boot. This is another movie where it's like, I wouldn't change a freaking thing in this movie.
I am surprised this is on your list. I would have thought maybe more like Mighty Ducks 2 would have been up here.
Oh, no. Sandlot is far superior.
Okay.
I love Mighty Ducks 1 and 2. Not so much 3. But Mighty Ducks 1 and 2. But Sandlot is far superior. So, yeah. Definitely. You guys, seriously, check out The Sandlot if you haven't seen it.
All right. My number 6, Braveheart.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. Put that into your top 10, huh?
It was actually kind of, what would you say, farther down a little bit.
That would be how you say it.
But then I was like, man, I can't do that to you. So I kicked it up a notch, like several notches.
Yeah, several all the way to the top.
But it's just, man, I can't think of how many Sundays when I was in high school. It's just like, I got all my homework done. There's nothing to do. All my friends were out doing their own thing. It's like, time to pop in some Braveheart.
That's funny.
And then my brother would just be like, I guess we're doing what we do every Sunday. We're watching Braveheart. It's like, dude, go do your own thing. No one's making you sit here
this
and watch
this is my thing. Find your own thing. Speaking of Sunday afternoon watches, I feel like that's what happened with my number 5 movie here that I'm going to talk about next. Is because of the length, it ended up being like one where I remember a few different times popping in on like a Sunday afternoon or like a Saturday afternoon, and too crummy to go outside maybe or something, and it was like,
okay.
And this is a movie where I admit that maybe it's not the most perfectly cinematographed, but it's a movie that really influenced just my life in a lot of ways. It's Gettysburg.
Oh, okay.
It was in theaters, but then more famously, because Turner made it, it was in theaters for a while, and then more famously, he premiered it over 2 nights on TNT, like the next January or February, and I remember watching it when it premiered on TNT, and I loved it. It kind of just set me on this path of just like wanting to learn more about the Civil War, which set me on a path of wanting to learn more about American history, which turned me into a nonfiction nut where I love to like learn about nonfiction stuff. And it all started with Gettysburg, when that and why I say more famously when it was on TNT is that I think it was like the most watched movie event like in cable history at that time, or maybe still or something.
Yeah,
it was like a big deal.
It was.
Jeff Daniels plays Joshua Chamberlain in this movie, and he's excellent. Martin Sheen plays Robert E. Lee, and it weirdly works. You have Tom Berenger as Longstreet. and Stephen Lang as Pickett, and Sam Elliott as Buford. None of these names maybe mean much to you, but you see they had a cast behind this is what I'm getting at. And yeah, it's not, like I said, like I think why I say it's not perfect is that they filmed it on location using actual Civil War reenactors to get the whole breadth of the armies facing each other, and so sometimes maybe the guys that are charging each other don't look overly emotional in the moment of charging and things like that, but I think it's because they're just reenactor guys. They're not trained actors, but you kind of forget about that and get caught up in everything else going on. And I still always cry, like in the last moments of the film, with how they wrap up Chamberlain's story. It gets me every time. So, Gettysburg, love it. It's long. Maybe watch it in 2 parts. It's like 4 hours.
Speaking of long movies, but this movie, I'm trying to remember how long it is, and I think it's like 2 hours and 40 minutes.
What movie's that?
Godfather 2.
Oh, jeez. It is long.
The movie that chronicles the rise of Vito Corleone, played by Robert De Niro, very famously originated by Marlon Brando.
While also at the same time showing the fall of Michael.
I wouldn't say fall, just his, like, almost like a selling of his soul.
Yeah.
Because, in the first one, he is kind of a good guy, but he's like, oh, my family's involved with this thing. That means I am too, even though his family's like, stay out of it, boy.
Yeah, Michael kind of sucks. Really.
I'm going to be real with you. I always struggled with his character a little bit because, well, then he doesn't really, sometimes people got to be like seduced by like power, corruption. But him, it's like he's just like, yeah, this is what we're doing, I guess.
Yeah, and then he just kind of like, he married that girl in Italy, knowing he wasn't going to stay there, and then he just kind of like ditched her.
Well, she died.
Oh, yeah, but he got her killed.
Yeah.
Oh, man, and it's like, yeah, I don't know.
But
I struggle with The Godfather. I don't really like the Godfather movies that much.
Yeah, the third one you just skip. I pretend like that movie doesn't exist sometimes. Then there's days when you just got to face reality. You're like, well, it's part of the saga. I feel like that's where I'm at with Star Wars right now.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to do that with Star Wars a little bit too, but that's okay because there's enough of them to go back to that you like, so you just don't worry about it. My number 4, I'm going to follow you in what you did because I had Fellowship of the Ring there really just as a filler for all of the Lord of the Rings, but I'm just going to go ahead and change it to Lord of the Rings also. My number 4 is the Lord of the Rings. Because I really just put Fellowship because it's like, well, I guess that's the one that started it off.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you can't just pick one.
It's like what Dakota was saying. It's like it really is like a 9-hour movie that they had to split into 3 parts.
15 if you include the
if you include the extended edition, it's like 25 hours or something. It's just I knew this had to be in my top 10 too. I knew this had to be in my top 5.
I was banking on you talking about this movie because I recently learned of a, theory. If you read the books, there's this character called Tom Bombadil.
Oh, Tom Bombadil.
Bombadil. Okay,
yes.
What? You know what, man? I always struggle with saying.
There's a large section early on in Frodo and Sam's journey in Merry Pippin where they meet Tom Bombadil and he protects them, and then they kind of hang out with him and his wife for a while. Yeah,
but there's a story that he's supposed to represent J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah, like I think J.R.R. Tolkien has said that was like the character he based most on himself or something.
Yeah, like he was supposed to have existed before the world was created, and the reason he could stop Sauron and save everybody, but he knows how everything's going to play out, so he just lets the chips fall where they will.
Yeah, it's interesting because Tolkien was famously good friends with C.S. Lewis, and C.S. Lewis has said as much that the professor whose house the Pevensey kids stay at is him. Like he, like that's
Okay.
like how that's him. How it's the older man who still has a sense of childlike wonderment and and so it's kind of funny how each of them kind of found ways to integrate themselves a little bit into their stories.
Well,
but yeah, that's interesting. Because I knew like Tolkien supposedly like based it a little bit off him a little bit. I never heard that like maybe those quite thing like he was there before it all existed and he could. I mean, you're kind of aware that he has he must have a pretty good strength in magic because of how he's able to protect where he lives even from the outside world. But
I don't know. I guess the only thing I could equate it to, and I know people are going to like come at me with some pitchforks, is he's basically the Lord of the Rings version of Dr. Manhattan, where he's like seeing everything all at once, and he's just like, well, I'm kind of just floating around over here.
Yeah, well, maybe he's not that omnipotent, but yeah, definitely powerful, I guess. But what's your number 4?
All right, this one.
Please say They Live.
No. That would have been farther down the list, man. Come on. No.
101.
I have never watched a movie before.
Haven't watched a movie?
That made me want to be a bad guy before.
Oh, boy. I think I know what we're talking about now.
I'm referring to Goodfellas.
The movie that made everybody want to be a bad guy.
Like, this movie just made you want to be a gangster, and up front it tells you, like, you might go to prison, but you just shut up, you be all right.
Yeah.
And it's just, it makes being look like a gangster be cool, like an old-fashioned gangster, you get the nice suit. And
except they all die or get in trouble.
You know what? That's life on the streets, all right? But
yeah, this is the confusion that happened with Wolf of Wall Street, too, where Scorsese's movies are too confusing, where it's like people didn't realize it was a cautionary tale. They're like, wow, I want to live like...
That's the thing. It's like too many people are like right now as we talk are like trying to emulate Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. It's like you missed the point of the movie.
Like people. Yeah, it's
or like people are like, man, Walter White is so cool.
Yeah, this really is, you could say, like the legacy of Martin Scorsese, because it really goes back to Taxi Driver even too, where it's like, no, you're not supposed to like Travis Bickle.
But yeah, it's like, oh man, the film overall I think is pretty great. I mean, oh man, I don't want to say this, but nobody really made movies like this until Scorsese showed up. Where it's just like, man, there's like style, there's like really great dialogue, and at the end of the day, is there really a story here? No, but we're like on this journey with these people, and we're just sucked in. And of course, everything comes crashing down. But by the time it does, you're just like, you don't care. You're just like, man, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there.
Yeah.
And I know people are like, Dakota, you moron, but man, I just wanted a fancy suit and a nice car, okay?
Oh, man. Let's see. No, we're in our top 3 now.
Yeah.
This is, okay, here we go, people. Just hang with us here. We're top 3. For my 3rd movie, I have Star Wars. Because that's what I call it. Because that's what it originally was called.
Well, it's like if I say to you, hey, I'm watching Lord of the Rings later, you want to come on? You're probably going to think, oh, he's watching A Fellowship of the Ring.
No, I'm thinking you're going to watch them all, and I'm still in. I'm still in.
Right.
No, Star Wars, I love Empire and I love Return of the Jedi, don't get me wrong. But there's just something special about that first movie. I think it's just because it's such a simple, cut and dry, like, hero's adventure, and it's just so fun to watch it, and it's just so joyous to watch. You just, I don't know, and I don't really care that Chewie didn't get a medal at the end. Who cares? I just love it. You guys know Star Wars. You should love it too. I'm just kidding. You don't have to love it, but it's worth a watch if you've never seen it, to at least just know if you like it or not. So, I feel like a lot of people say they don't like Star Wars, but they've never watched it. And it's like, well, just give it a chance. Don't just listen to all these nerds around you who just swing around lightsabers too much. Just see if you enjoy it as a movie.
I often wonder what it takes for a person to not like Star Wars. And it's like, when they were making you, what was missing? Like,
I think
not love life.
Sometimes there's people that don't like things. I think it's just because they're stubborn. But I know this because I'm like that. There's just things I refuse to like because everybody else wants me to like them. Oh man, Dakota, we got to get this done. We're starting to get too real here.
We're in the top 2. Hey, this is what they're paying to listen.
Well, what's
to.
we got to do your number 3.
Oh, my bad. This one is a relatively new one, and Steven is not going to be surprised this is in the top 3.
Oh, okay.
Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, okay, there it is. I knew it had to be on there somewhere. Okay.
Oh.
I get why this is in your top 3, though.
When at the end of the day, I'm a simple guy. I like action movies.
Pizza.
Right. Ice cold bottle of Coke. Oh, man. In the green bottle. Just kidding. They don't make the green bottles anymore.
No, they don't.
The green bottles like American Love. They don't make them anymore. It's a line from Rorschach, Steven. Come on, man.
That's a lot of Watchmen references. Didn't expect this.
I'm throwing you off here. I don't know.
Oh, man.
But, yeah, it's just... I go back to this film, and it's like, there's no weak parts in this film. When I watched it the first time, I just ate it up. And I didn't even care that this hero from my childhood was replaced by a completely different actor. And the fact that he was just a side character in his own movie. Oh, I did love the fact that the villain from the very first movie, the actor, was back, and I was immediately like, what if that's him? Like, what if he survived that, semi-crash, and that's why his face is all messed up? And
yeah, was he supposed to be playing the same person?
a lot of people think so.
Because George Miller never said?
Yeah, people have asked him, and he just smiled.
That's really bizarre.
Did the little twinkle in his eyes, like, you'll never know.
Oh, my gosh.
And it was, I guess in a way, it was kind of like his vision for this post-apocalyptic wasteland was like what I had kind of always like envisioned was going on in the Mad Max world. Like just people had become animals kind of at their core, and they were just, and it was all just good fun. I wasn't like, oh man, this would be so cool to live in this world.
Was Fury Road kind of meant to be almost more of like a reboot in a sense? It was like, here's what it looks like if I would have had the budget back then.
Here's the thing, Max's car, that Ford that we kind of see throughout the movies, it looks in this movie exactly like it does in the promotional material. And the semi that the Furiosa's driving also looks like the rig from the second movie, like the artwork that was on the poster. So I think it was. Like, I think he's like, man, I want to show you guys what I really wanted to show you back then.
Interesting.
And, of course, everybody loved it, and they're like, we want a sequel. And he's like, I could do, 5 sequels off this one movie alone if I don't die first.
I was going to say, is he actually going to make more? He's like 80.
Supposedly he is working on a sequel, but...
what about another Happy Feet or Babe movie, though?
I wouldn't mind another Babe movie.
Pig in the City wasn't bad, actually.
So. I liked it more than the original Babe, but you can't say that because people come at you with the pitchforks.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay, well, unsurprisingly, that made your third movie. Number 2. This is where it's like, what do you put as your top 2 movies? Now, anybody who's listened to this podcast for any length of time should know that this movie I'm going to say has to be in 1 or 2. Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
I mean, Jurassic Park. Again, when you see this movie as a kid, and you feel like the dinosaurs are in the movie the whole time, not just like 15 minutes of screen time like you find out later. It's just this movie blows your mind, and as a kid, it made you realize what movies could be. I don't know. It's just it was like everything in one movie. You just got excited about dinosaurs and movies, and Sam Neill became your hero, even though everything else he's in you probably weren't allowed to watch or you never want to watch. But yeah, it's just Jurassic Park. It's great. There's a reason they're still trying to figure out how to make these. They're trying to capture the magic of this first one still.
Sometimes you just can't, man.
And you know what? That's why in the next one they're having all three of the original people come back. But will it work? Probably not.
I think the fact that Spielberg is like, we kind of told this story, but there's still money to be made. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, he's always willing to do movies that he knows people want to. So, yeah. But, man, that first one they're still trying to top it. It's still just great. Bob Peck. All these people who I knew from nothing else I was loving in this movie. Bob Peck, Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum, Laura Dern. Just great. So, Dakota, what is your number 2?
Well, this might be kind of underwhelming for some of you.
Oh, boy.
The Shining.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You should have known.
I should have saw this coming because you hadn't said it yet.
Oh, man.
Kubrick once again creeping onto the list.
Hey, man, I kicked not Ben-Hur.
You kicked Ben-Hur.
Oh, no. Come on, man. Spartacus. I kicked Spartacus off the list because it was a very, Kubrick heavy, I felt.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And I'm like, I feel like favoritism because
he doesn't claim that movie, so you'd have been fine.
But, man, the movie you just mentioned is big, man. That's why we go to the movie screen, so we watch these big epic movies.
Mm-hmm.
But in the hands of like a great filmmaker, even like when you look at this movie, there's like nothing like that the hours that this movie kind of ties up. There's stuff going on. Like it's very, there's this creepy atmosphere. There's really great acting from just everybody in this movie. And, oh, man. Scatman Crothers is great. I always loved his dick holler. But, yeah, this emotionally, I just always loved this movie. It's kind of like a nightmare. Martin Scorsese once said something like, "Oh, that's why we go to movies. It's because we see our dreams on the screen. Well, nightmares are dreams too, I guess."
Yeah.
But with that, I will let you tell the world your number 1.
Wow, The Shining. Number 1. I guess I was accidentally Spielberg heavy on my top on my top 2. But one part of me, it wasn't hard to pick number 1, and another part of me, it was really hard to decide what was number 1 movie. But at the end of the day, it seems like this is the one I always come back to, where it's like, it's so good, fun, exciting. It's so movie. It's so movie what you want to see, and it's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, okay.
It's just like, so many times I just come back to this one as like just one of my favorites. Indiana Jones is such an iconic character, and I like all of the Indiana Jones. Well, I always forget there's that other one.
About to be another one.
Yeah, I like Temple of Doom. I like Last Crusade. but there's just something extra special about Raiders of the Lost Ark. And even though Dakota made fun of it, that all the events could have happened without Indiana Jones being involved.
Hey, I still think it's a great movie.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They took an idea that was like a cheesy B movie serials from the 40s and turned it into like this cool big movie with like a cool guy in the lead, I guess is how you put it. And it's just like, I love all the adventure in this movie. I love all the stunts in this movie. I love the over-the-top sound effects in this movie. I love that he's punching Nazis. I mean, it's great. It's great. I love it. It's probably why I laughed out loud when I saw Into the Spider-Verse, which was on my list, and Spider-Man Noir is like talking about slugging Nazis and stuff, and I'm just like, he's like Indiana Jones Spider-Man. It's just so funny.
I felt he should get his own movie, but that'll never happen.
Oh, well, you never know. Never say never. We know Nicolas Cage would do it. He needs to buy more dinosaur skulls. But oh man, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Mwah, I commend you. Thank you, Mr. Spielberg and Mr. Lucas and Philip Kaufman, who helped with the screenplay too, and Lawrence Kasdan. Thank you for combining all your talents and giving us such a wonderful movie. So, Dakota, what is your number one?
All right. Well, fans of the show, all two of you,
you're out there. We know you're there.
May know that I'm a Batman fan. I've been reading, DC Comics in particular. I've been reading them since I was just this sick little boy in a hospital. My dad brought me these comics. Like, here you go, something to pass the time. This place has to suck. And it did. But growing up, you read about these characters, Batman, Superman, Flash, Green Lantern, and you kind of you get attached to them. I think that's why that Green Lantern movie stung so much. It's like, oh man, I've been waiting for this movie for so long and it just sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling too good after that because, I thought about lying to myself. Like maybe after a second viewing,
it doesn't help.
Yeah.
No.
After the fifth viewing, I'm like,
maybe if I watch that extended cut or whatever they came out with.
It's like maybe after I give it some time, like 5 months, I'll come back and we'll see how I feel then. Anyway, the movie was just garbage, and I couldn't admit it to myself then. And I'm still waiting for like a great Superman movie. We've come a long way in filmmaking, and I always wanted like a Superman from the comics, and I think we almost very closely got that with Henry Cavill. But there was like a lot going on behind the scenes with him.
Yeah.
But for like a brief moment in time, I got like a perfect representation of Batman, Gotham City, Jim Gordon, Joker. Some of the other Batman villains weren't there, but they didn't need to be because it's like somebody like captured like what I had always wanted, and they just like boom put it on the screen. I was like, oh man, because we went to see The Dark Knight together, and I remember we walked out, and I was just like, oh my gosh, did I die? Was that like just an amazing dream? Am I in the afterlife now? But yeah, that is genuinely how I felt after watching The Dark Knight. And of course I went back a few nights later, saw it again, and it's like, oh man, this movie it's really great. And that's why it's my number one. It was I had been waiting for this movie for a very long time, and it showed up, and it was just great. I fell in love with the movie, and I had really, really wanted more. Like, oh man, that'd be great if he did like a movie with Penguin or, just someone else, Riddler or Mr. Freeze. Of course, that never happened. He kind of just gave up and decided to end things. But yeah. And that's why The Dark Knight's number one on this list.
I mean, That movie is fantastic. It's not gonna be. There's not gonna be no knocking from me that it's your number one. Because you're right, it was kind of like everything just kind of came together right, in that movie, and yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, I think I would say, especially in our top 10, you really get a picture of maybe the movies that imprinted the most on us. We in our own right here made our own epic in doing a 4-hour podcast episode, but it's our 100th episode. We knew it had to be epic in some way, shape, or form, and so man, we thank you for sticking with us. And there's a lot of movies we went through. Maybe agreed with us on some. Maybe you were confused why some were on our list. I don't blame you. I know I had some confusing ones on my list, but they're movies that I'm confused why I like them, but I still like them. There's just I think that's the wonderful thing about movies. It's why we like to talk about them and do them. Is that there's just so many different kinds. That could be so many different things, and how we can have on our list, we can have everything from whatever, Dumb and Dumber to Saving Private Ryan to Godfather 2, and you have The Shining, and then you can have Toy Story 2. I mean, because all these movies are maybe in one sense created for different demographics, but a singular person can still watch all these movies and feel something from them and be, I don't know, even if it's just to be entertained for a few hours. It's just it seems like there's so many movies now, and yet not very many of them are special. And it's just kind of fun to keep seeking out that next special movie that comes along, maybe if you're lucky, 1 or 2 times a year. As we talked about, I don't remember if it was in this podcast, it's been a long episode, about how 2019 wasn't like the best year in a lot of people's opinion, for movies, but there were still some special ones in there.
Yeah. The Irishman is not in there. Just
yeah.
throwing that out there.
And these are lists that we really, we compiled knowing we were going to do this episode, but really we've been compiling this list for 34 years. And so, we hope you enjoyed listening to our favorites, some of our favorite movies, and we hope to do more and more. And Dakota was joking about only having a couple fans, but we know you're out there. Every once in a while, I try not to get over obsessed with analytics and statistics, but every once in a while I look and I just get excited to see that people are listening and subscribing in all these ways. And we thank you so much for that. It's fun to do this, and even though we just do it. We'd do this if nobody listened, probably, but it's really cool to know that people are, and thanks for listening. And Dakota, you have anything to add?
Not really. I think we explained ourselves pretty well. I mean,
we did.
I feel like I'm gonna get some flack for having Watchmen on my list.
It's all right. I mean, I had Kung Pao, so I mean,
objectively though, that movie is hilarious. I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, that's the wonderful thing about movies, like I'm saying. It's just like anything can be for anybody. And we just love it. Love to talk about them. And are excited that, man, we're going on 5 years of doing this podcast and 100 episodes in, and more are coming. And so, yeah, thanks for listening to this very long episode. This is Steven.
This is Dakota.
Here's to 100 more.